In Monaco, Juan Pablo Montoya was on pole, only to see David Coulthard blast past him. Today, Montoya again starts from pole after an electrifying qualifying session yesterday.
5 tenths in front of Michael. Purple all 3 sectors. Good lap.
And there was no doubt that Williams were delighted. And even the brilliant Michael Schumacher couldn't answer that, although he tried pretty hard.
Look at the commitment from Schumacher. Cross the line, no, it's not enough.
Rubens Barrichello's hopes went for a spin, whilst Takuma Sato managed to keep the car on track, but couldn't see his way through the smoke, and then couldn't see the wood for the trees. But teammate Giancarlo Fisichella, a point scorer in the last 2 races, continued his great form by placing his Jordan in 6th. Local hero Jacques Villeneuve had his best qualifying day until a problem caused him to wave bye-bye to his hopes of a top 6 spot. By then, the rains had come and washed away any hopes of an improvement. Today, the weather forecast is for a dry race, brings a whole new meaning to Canada Dry. I know it may be flaming June outside, but inside here we have 2 of the driest people I know joining me for this race, Damon Hill and Perry McCarthy. Damon, you've won here, of course. What does Juan Pablo Montoya need to do to keep Mr. Schumacher behind him?
Good start, basically. I mean, it's not all over if he doesn't get through to the first corner first. This is a very long race and tactical, and it's possible to overtake on this track. But so it's a little bit less like Monaco. But really, you can't give Michael an advantage. I do think the Ferrari we didn't see the best of it in qualifying yesterday. The rain kind of mitigated things. So I think Juan Pablo is going to have to do very well to keep Michael back today.
Ferrari dominated the warm-up. Is that significant? Can we read into things into that?
I disagree with Damon. I think we did see the best of Ferrari yesterday. I think they put their times in before the rain came down. So I think that their speed in warm-up this morning means that they're going on a 2-stop strategy. So that's my bet for the race.
It's amazing he's gone for a 2-stop. Usually it's 3 or even 4, isn't it? But,
he's getting there, slowly, eventually.
OK, I'm coming back. I'm ratcheting back.
After what happened in Monaco, or rather what didn't happen at the start for Montoya, and he didn't have a great warm-up session this morning, could it be running through his mind that maybe it's going to be the same deal again?
No, you saw Montoya after the qualifying press conference yesterday. He'll take anything that comes, anything that's thrown at him. He's not particularly bothered, and he'll deal with it as it happens. And I think that he's such a great fighter and a great racing driver that already I think that we. I think the problem they had in Monaco is unlikely to repeat itself here in Canada. But if it does, he gets some sort of problem, then he'll deal with it.
No apologies for repeating the fact that Montoya and Schumacher are supposed to be the duel of this season. Is it back on with a vengeance?
It's every time those lights go off, and I don't say go green because nowadays they go off, it's back on with a vengeance whoever you're against on the grid. So, we've got what I believe are the 2 best drivers in Grand Prix at the moment, head-to-head, face-to-face. Got that first corner looming. I think it's going to be a fantastic start. Remember, Montoya wants to make his mark. He cannot stand Schumacher having this amount of success. He wants to say he's the boy.
Familiar names until you get to 6th place, and Fisichella is up there with the Jordan. He's scored points in the last 2 races. He's obviously on form at the moment. Can he actually make a mark on this race?
I think he can, because there is, as I said yesterday, there's a high attrition in this Grand Prix. And it's tough on everyone. Assuming it doesn't happen to Fisichella, he's got a good chance of being on the podium. It usually throws up an unusual podium, not the regulars. So, yes, he's got a very good chance.
And your old mate Jacques Villeneuve, it's his home race. They say that it's going to be the turning point for them this season.
Well, you could say it's a turning point in that they haven't slipped further back. That's about as much as you can say. And I think that, again, things could turn out, but only through luck for him. These guys are struggling to keep out of the back 10.
Now, every track has one corner that can make or break a lap. We've chosen turn 2 at the Gilles Villeneuve circuit as one that needs special attention. Bruce Jones has been getting some expert advice on how to tackle it.
Prix Senna, or Senna Corner, turn 2 of the circuit Gilles Villeneuve here in Montreal. One of the best places to watch the racing action this weekend. As you can see behind my right shoulder, we have the first corner, which is the left-hander, feeding into the tight Right-hander, which is the second corner, taken in first gear, very tight, and this whole sequence has seen many an incident over the years. Cast your mind back to 1998, and Alexander Wurz went barrel rolling at the first start. The second start was no better, as the drivers bunched up and fought for that all-important position. And again, as the cars leave turn 2 and accelerate out that way over my right-hand shoulder, very important to get a good run of speed for the back section of the circuit. Again, looking over the other side over my left-hand shoulder, we can see the pit lane. New for this year, it used to enter the track just before the first corner. That didn't work. Again, remember back to 1998, Michael Schumacher shot out of the pits during the race right into Heinz-Harald Frenzen's Williams, and Frenzen wasn't at all happy to be knocked out of the race. So this time, it's a straight line, comes straight into turn 2, first gear corner, much less likely to cause an incident, and the drivers very much approve of that already.
Well, definitely, first of all, I like the circuit, and the first corner and second corner, you know, is the first corner is quite hard after the starts, and we have had about 300 k's in the first corner, and we're braking so late, and we pass the first corner and the first gear, and we stay in the first gear for also the second corner. It's very tight, but it's quite fun because sometimes it's possible to overtake, but it's quite hard to overtake in this place.
Well, you get to the first left-hander in a 7-speed maximum speed. You just brake into second gear. You just have to important just to carry as much speed as you can into the left-hander. Run a little bit over the curb, maybe 1 meter. Otherwise, you have too much understeer. And just accelerate briefly in between turn 1 and turn 2. Turn 2 is a very tight corner, extremely tight, where it's in first gear. You have to downshift from second to first, and the most important thing there is just to run all over the curb. And even sometimes, if you have too much understeer, put one wheel on the grass, and it helps you turn the car. Then you accelerate and up to 5th gear to the next chicane.
And the start is quite difficult because it's quite tight corners and it's quite a narrow circuit, and you need to be very careful with the other guys because if you start to going straight, or it's just very slow on the first corner because so many cars all try to make it at the same time, and you don't want to lose any front wings or hit anyone. And it's just going to be tight, but I think so last year it was a good start, nobody hit each other, and I think so it should be okay.
That's our best chance this year, that the first corner and the second corner can throw up a few shunts. Hopefully they throw up a few more than normal so we have a chance of scoring points. That's you know, the only thing we can hope for.
Good old Eddie looking for a few crashes. Now, that's one corner then. Let's see how the whole circuit looks from a driver's point of view. Mark Webber is our guide.
Mark Webber, after the familiarity of the Monaco circuit, how are you finding this one?
Another great challenge. I mean, obviously into turn 1 there, and trying to catch a little bit of curb in turn 2, hard in the traction control out of here up the hill. There's a lot of grip out of there, so also braking now into turn 3 over the curb on the inside, try and catch a little bit of that one there. Watch that wall there, that's very unforgiving on the exit. Very quick section of the track here, flat through that quick right-hander. Difficult braking here. What you do here is very important for the run onto the back straight, so try and use the grip on the inside, a bit wide on that lap there. Get a run down the back straight here, have a little bit of a relax, get ready for the braking under the bridge. Very bumpy under the bridge here, so the car's moving around quite a bit. Catch the curbs as best you can over the top of those. Again, running right out near the wall, getting the most speed you can, obviously, onto these long straights. Very bumpy again on the entry for this hairpin. A lot of grip here on this new resurfaced hairpin as well. Hard into the traction control out of this far hairpin. Very important to get a good exit out of there for this long run back to the pits. And now you're thinking about how aggressively, obviously, you're going to tackle this last corner. You can feel your bum touching the ground along the straight here. It's very low, the ride heights. Catch these these curves. Oh, a little bit over the top there, a little bit naughty, and finishing the lap. But it is a challenging little track, and like a street circuit in a way, obviously, because there's a lot of walls and the grip levels going up as the weekend goes on. So I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
And what do you think of the pit exit change?
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I was a little bit worried about the speed we'd arrived down in turn 2 because we leave the pit limiter quite early, so actually we'll be going down there quite quick. But merging into the traffic's going to work quite well, I think, in the race. So they've done a good job.
That's what it looks like. Let's see how the drivers cope with it in qualifying. A tremendous session described for us by John Watson and Ben Edwards.
Because there's no point in getting involved in a real dice.
Afternoon's work.
Great lap. Yeah, it was a bit more in there, but You know, it's a shame the third run it was good first sector and the last sector was really good, but in the middle sector I exited one of the chicanes and went full throttle and just understeer straight into the wall. Had to get out of the throttle.
On this circuit, you run very low downforce, you run curbs, so you sort of compromise the setup from a good balance to jump curbs and yeah, get organized for the low downforce.
But it's nice for you, I guess, in this situation to be as quick as you are on the straight.
Yes, but then obviously qualifying we always do very well, and then let's see what happens tomorrow.
It's a track that you gotta try, and since last year, I mean, it's a track that I go quite well, in all honesty. But I've been struggling since last year because the car seems to be very pointy, and then when you jump on the curbs, it's oversteery, but in the middle of the corner, a lot of understeer. So I've been trying to make the car right for that. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of track time this morning because of the shunt. So that was very unfortunate. But you know, at the end of the day, third position is not too bad.
First would have been difficult today. I mean, Juan had a really good day and a good car together, and he just was very quick, but definitely second. I mean, I made a mistake in my second run, which definitely would have brought me into second position, but didn't happen, and then I had to jump into the T-car.
It was quite okay for me. I went all the time a bit quicker, but then on the last run I was even slightly quicker than my quickest time, but then it started raining a bit too much and the circuit got too slippy.
We didn't expect to be sixth today. We did a good job. I did a fantastic lap, and car was good. I got a good feeling with the circuit, obviously, and like as some years ago, I hope to get on the podium again.
I don't have to ask either of you how well Fisichella did, because you just told us I did a fantastic lap.
I never had the nerve to say that. I don't remember actually saying I did a fantastic lap when I know I've done a good lap. But yeah, I think he did that in all modesty, actually. I think he knows he did a brilliant job to get the car up there on sixth.
All right, but he is the exception. Would it be fair to say that maybe Williams, perhaps McLaren, but definitely Williams, are closing the gap at last on Ferrari?
I mean, I'm not so sure it's Williams. That, as I've said before, they're you know, R&D all the time with the chassis, R&D all the time with the BMW engine. But I think that finally, maybe Michelin are closing the gap on Bridgestone, and I believe that's where the biggest area of performance gain is in such a short space of time. It's Michelin.
I don't agree.
What a shock.
No, I think this circuit is similar to Monaco, and I think that's why Michelin are more competitive here. And I think when we get to circuits with longer, faster corners, then I think Bridgestones will give the advantage back to Ferrari again.
Then why isn't Coulthard further up the grid? I mean, I know he said, oh, we can't expect the same again here, but they always say that.
Yeah, I think they're suffering with horsepower, quite simply, and this is it's very important to have good horsepower. It's not so important in Monaco, which is why David managed to get on the front row.
And BAR, we touched on it earlier on. Jacques is the local hero. Jacques apparently has a car which has reached the turning point. That's what they've been saying for months now. Do you think Jacques has a prayer of getting a point from this race?
No. I think he's going to have to be lucky to do that. I mean, we're seeing a resurgence of the Jordan now with Fisichella. The McLarens are there, the Williams are there, the Ferraris are there. Sure, maybe with attrition. I mean, this circuit is really tough on brakes. So, and it's going to be tough on mistakes as well. We've seen a lot of mistakes all the way across these sessions from Friday onward with people going off. So that can sure repeat itself in the race itself, but I think it's a long way for Jack to come.
I don't see anyone in front of Jack being slower than him.
Let's have a look at the grid and see what we're talking about and what we're predicting here. All right, we've got the top two, obviously they're in with a chance, but where do you see someone coming from? Perhaps from
there's going to be
way back.
I think it's the usual tangle there between Rubens and Ralph. They you know, watch those two at the start. They tend to come together. Kimi Räikkönen, I think, is going to have trouble hanging on to the Ferraris and Williamses. So I think what you'll see is what's going on behind there is a bit of a backlog. I think a lonely race. I think Fisichella will be doing well to fight ahead of Nick Heidfeld. David Coulthard will be putting pressure on the two in front of him. Jack will be trying to stop the flood of people behind him who want to get past.
And behind them,
Again, Jensen's probably not where he should be, but I think that Eddie Irvine again is going to be doing well to hang on to his track position. But points-wise, it's down to attrition again.
Okay, you two
Sato
have been.
Could be some entertainment.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it could be. No, he didn't get a great run yesterday. We've seen the cars quit with Fisichella. He wasn't so far off him when both cars were running at the same time. So he could provide some entertainment coming through, and both the arrows as well.
Yeah,
because they're very quick in the.
I think there's great potential for a lot of entertainment from 10th downwards.
He's also giving a talk after the race on the local nature in Montreal, because he spent 25 minutes in the forest trying to work his way back to the pit lane. It's cruel, but it always seems to happen to him. You two have been arguing busily already. Peter will no doubt like to disagree with both of you as well, but let's give him an individual question to start with. Peter, 7 manufacturers in the top 10. Who's going to be happiest, Jordan, BAR, or Sauber of those middle-ranking teams?
Well, we're talking about race prediction here, and I have to say I think it'll probably be Sauber. They've done a very good job this weekend. They spent all of Friday in a very disciplined way just working on brakes, making sure that they had no more of the trouble that hurt them at Monte Carlo. And in a way that worked perversely in their favour, because they really got their heads down here. And as we saw yesterday, the car's very quick. It's back to where it was pre-Monte Carlo. Nick Heidfeld, Felipe Massa, very quick. So I think they'll have a good race.
Yeah, the brake trouble you was referring to with the Sauber at Monaco, that was when they completely fouled and he smashed into the wall, Peter. Is that right?
That's exactly right, Perry, as you so graphically put it. The brake fluid boiled. I mean, basically, they just ran out of brakes. And he had some braking at the front just before he hit the wall, but not a lot, and nothing at the rear at all.
But Sauber have kind of been in that territory for a while, haven't they? 6th, 7th, 8th area. That's become Sauber territory for quite a while.
That's right, and they've really, I think, shown up a lot of better financed and teams which should be doing a lot more with the facilities they have. They've done a great job, and they continue to do a great job. I mean, it's very easy after a race like Monaco to say, yeah, okay, look, we're struggling a bit now, and to go into a slump, but they've bounced right back again very, very quickly. I think that's very impressive.
Anybody talking in the last 4 hours or so that they've had off? Did they talk to you, Peter, or do they prefer to keep those cards closely to their chests?
Well, obviously one tries to chat to as many different team people as possible, and the big talking point, of course, is strategy here. The computer simulation shows that a 2-stop strategy is faster by about 4 seconds, which means that everybody on the safe side is going to go on 1 stop. But the big question mark is Ferrari, because if you look at where they've stopped in the races so far, the indications are that their fuel tank holds about 90 kilos worth of fuel. And this race is quite high on fuel consumption. It's about a 180 kilogram fuel race. And on that basis, Ferrari could be pushing it on a 1 stop. They may be in trouble. They might need a safety car. And of course, they wouldn't take that sort of risk. So they may almost certainly go into a 2-stop strategy because of that. But I think you'll find Williams and McLaren on 1 stops, which can make it very, very interesting.
Peter, Damon here. If you were Ferrari's team manager, if you would say, let's say you're wearing a red overalls there and you are the team manager of Ferrari, would you be recommending Michael go on a 2-stop, being second on the grid?
I would actually, yes, because I would gamble on Williams doing a 1-stop. And if you put Michael on a 1-stop, as I said, it might be on the limit in terms of fuel anyway. But beyond that, if he's behind Montoya, basically Montoya's got him, because we know that Williams do have a bigger fuel tank, and he'd be able to run those critical laps before the stop and gain ground there. If, however, you put Michael on a 2-stop, he has the chance of getting past Montoya away from the line or over the first couple of laps, because he'll obviously be a lot lighter. Now, if he runs into traffic and all the sorts of things that can affect your race, it could be that Montoya will still win, or a Williams will still win. But, you know, if that happens, Michael's still going to be second or third, so it's worth taking the gamble.
Peter, you were backing Ralph. Changed your mind yet?
Well, I'm only backing Ralph because a bit of a gut feeling that he's had a bit of a quiet weekend. He's being overshadowed a little bit by Juan Pablo, but nonetheless, he's been pretty quick. And of course, we know the Williams BMW is good here. I think overnight he will have done a bit of thinking about the sort of race he can drive, and providing, as Damon says, he can keep out of trouble and not get hit Rubens Barrichello, I think he could have a good race.
OK, Peter, we'll see, won't we? Thanks very much for the time being.
Absolutely.
So Jaguar having their best weekend of the season, and you would be having a pretty good weekend as well if you won their car. Well, it might just happen.
The situation in Jaguar is certainly not clear, and other rumours suggesting other drivers are being sought. So Eddie really sitting on the bubble right now. He himself commented that he's not going to make any decision about his future at Jaguar until Silverstone, when the improvements that have been promised from the aerodynamic side of the team are filtered into the car, and one hopes that that will see significant step forward for Jaguar. The problem is that while they've frozen development on the car as it stands right now, everybody else has moved forward, so what they might believe will be a big step forward in July at Silverstone may in reality only be a very much smaller one in relation to your competitors.
Now, here's a man, I wonder if he's still feeling high after the win in Monaco. He's been a little low-key about it, but it was a tremendous victory that he earned 2 weeks ago in Monte Carlo. We're looking back over the previous winners on this particular track, and of course last year we saw the first ever sibling 1-2 as Ralph beat Michael to the line, and Williams taking the victory. But it was Michael the year before, in 2000. You could look at that list of success. 4 wins for Michael Schumacher. 2 of them, well, 3 of them coming with the Ferrari, 1 with the Benetton Ford. So it's always been a happy hunting ground, even if it's not Michael's favourite track. He quite enjoys it, but he says it's a little bit stop-start in its nature. Might not be his favourite, but he's always very effective here.
Well, I don't know a circuit in this World Championship that Michael Schumacher is not effective on. And the reason is it's pretty much about engines and brakes. You need good traction off those hairpin bends. It's important, particularly coming out of that hairpin down at turn 10, to get good bite off the corner to ensure that your maximum speed is attained at all times. Also, because if you've got a car behind you, if you're a little bit sloppy off the corner, it gives that car an opportunity to pick up a slipstream. Overtaking is possible into turn 14. That's the right-hander that leads into the left-hander onto start-finish straight. It's very tight. You've seen 1 or 2 brave moves down the inside, but you need to be really alongside the car you want to pass prior to getting on the brakes.
Well, the Canadian flag flying proudly, and Jacques Villeneuve will be hoping to do honour to that flag here today. He looks fired up, doesn't he? Just watching him in the garage there. Just sometimes he usually looks very relaxed, very laid back. He just looked a little bit more motivated, perhaps, with the fans cheering him on.
Well, I think we saw a stunning drive from Villeneuve in Austria, where he did go on a 2-stop strategy. And he was very aggressive. I mean, I haven't seen Villeneuve drive like that for quite some time. And it was great to see that spirit was still there. Now, I would not be surprised that BAR do a similar thing and have Villeneuve starting on the 5th row of the grid, 9th place, go for a fairly light first run, possibly go, in fact, if he's going to do a light run, he's got to go for 2 stops anyway. But, you know, to get him up to the front to try and get in contact with the leading front 3 rows of the grid and not maybe get caught behind Heidfeld, Fisichella, or even for that matter David Coulthard, who's only 1 spot higher on the grid than Jacques Villeneuve.
Well, Jacques Villeneuve in his home province of Quebec here, of course, with a huge amount of support. Let's see how he gets on today. It hasn't always gone his way. He's sometimes tried too hard at this track and has been involved in a few incidents over the years. Michael Schumacher just preparing inside the Ferrari garage, relaxed, controlled, composed. He knows what he has to do here this afternoon. They suffered that engine failure this morning, but everything's back on plan hopefully now, and they can look forward to bringing the cars out on track in a few moments' time for their reconnaissance laps, just to check that everything is running okay.
And interestingly, Jean Todt, the team principal of Ferrari, having a quiet word with Michael just prior to getting in to what will initially be the race car. Then he'll probably jump out of that and go into the spare car and then get back into the race car and then go onto the grid. Ferrari tend to be fairly late when they do go onto the grid. It's usually within 4 minutes of the pit lane closing that we see the Ferraris then come out of their garages and then make their way around the track, and then at a quarter to the hour come on to their positions. In the case of Michael on the front row and Rubens, he's on the 2nd row.
Here's a man starting on the 3rd row, Giancarlo Fisichella. As we mentioned, the best qualifying performance so far this year for Jordan Honda. 4 times he's finished on the podium in the last 5 years in Montreal. So he has a very effective record. He led some 23 laps back in 1998. Hasn't yet taken a Grand Prix victory, and you have to say it's not likely it'll happen today, but if he can just get into the points again, he has earned 4 points in the last few Grand Prix, really getting the Jordan Honda campaign back on track after a very, very difficult start to the season.
And that reliability problem that's afflicted Honda pretty much all year. Again, Jordan must be concerned. They had a massive blow-up for Takuma Sato in Saturday qualifying. We also saw Jacques Villeneuve leaving here just at about this point. All of a sudden, there are the marks still in the grass. In fact, you can see on the right of the screen those dark marks. That's where Villeneuve's car then slithered to a halt, a seizure of the engine. So while a great performance from Fisichella and for Jordan to get their car onto the third row of the grid, there is still the spectre of reliability hovering over the Honda engine.
Pat Symonds yesterday in qualifying, didn't we? He said before qualifying started that he would have preferred a track temperature up in the 30s and an ambient temperature in the high 20s. So that's what we have now. I'm just trying to do my maths here. That was fairly well timed for the Jordan to leave and go onto the grid. He'll be sitting there on his own for a long time. That's Fisichella.
Fantastic lap, though.
Even
Still
if he did
leading.
say so himself, yeah, it was a very fantastic lap. But he'll be excited about this one. This is a driver that really we have not. I'd like to see him lead a Grand Prix because I think he really is capable of doing a lot better than he's
He did do it in
done so
Germany,
far.
didn't he?
A
couple of years back.
Right. Well, your memory's better than mine.
Hockenheim.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll have to look into the statistics book there. Laps led by Giancarlo Fisichella. How many was it, Perry?
Matt?
I'd like to answer you, but I'm very busy introducing the fact that with both Jordans out there, we ought to have a quick word with Gary Anderson now. Nick Damon with the microphone.
Gary Anderson, race dawning upon us, and once again the weather and conditions have changed. It's now quite sticky, a bit warmer and more blustery. How's that affecting how you're approaching setting up the cars?
The wind's coming sort of across the track, so it's not really going to affect too much as far as speed's concerned, or the gears or anything like that, so that's not too big a worry there. There's about a 25% chance of some rain during the race sometime, so it is a bit cloudy and overcast, and sort of as we saw yesterday in qualifying, I think anything can happen.
What's the general consensus, you think, down the pit lane, not necessarily yourself, what do you think other people will be doing regarding the 1-2 stop conundrum?
I think the see sort of probably 50-50, you know, it's traditionally this has been a good results coming out of doing one stop here, but the pit road's changed a bit, it makes it a bit quicker getting out of there. Tyres are getting to be that they're, you know, the performance is very good over, you know, from lap 5 to lap 20 or something like that, so I think a few people, if you're at the front, you'd go for 2 stops probably.
Do you think you'll see a lot of teams doing a split, one go on 1 and one go on 2?
Yeah, I mean, it's about qualifying position, to be honest. If you're, you know, going to do 2 stops near the back of the grid, you're going to get held up by 1 stop people. So that's, you know, that sort of decides part of it for you.
Gary, best luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, but just to explain that, to clarify that, the theoretical quickest race is a 2-stop race, but that assumes you can run at your quickest pace. Now, what Gary was saying was that it's no good if you're in the middle of the grid and you put on the quickest race strategy being a 2-stop and then get held up by someone who's on a 1-stop, because that completely blows your strategy apart. The difference in weight between a 2-stop race, low fuel load, and a 1-stop fuel load will be something about in the region of about 30 kilos, and that equates to nearly a second a lap getting on for that race like Canada. It's harder on brakes the more fuel you carry, it's harder on acceleration and fuel consumption the more fuel you carry as well.
So, for getting speed, if they're worried about the longevity of their braking systems, that could be a factor that they could use to make sure they don't have a brake failure. I mean, we talked about Jordan having the disc explode a couple of years back when Fisichella was running so well.
Yeah.
So it wasn't Fizzy, was it? Who was it running for Jordan?
It was Frentzen. Right at the end of the race, his brake exploded and went into turn 4 backwards. He gave himself a pretty serious concussion. He wasn't too happy about that. The other thing, of course, if you have more fuel on, you have to brake earlier.
Well, yes, though, Flavio Briatore said Renault needed a magician to help them out of the mess they found themselves in thus far in Montreal. Let's see if they found one. Flavio talking to Nick Damon.
Flavio Briatore, has it been a disappointing weekend so far for Renault?
No, really. We know this is very power engine, power circuit, and sure, B10 with Jarno, 13 with Bato is not the best, but it's like Austria. It's the same condition for us. But we see today in the race, I believe we had the possibility to go to the point.
Is the fact that it's a lot warmer now going to help with the Michelin tyres?
I don't know. I think so Miss Reg is pretty much good now. I don't think so the weather has the big influence, but sure, with the weather is like that is better.
Thank you, Fabio.
Oh, thanks, Matt. That's cleared something up for me. He said he needed a magician after the qualifying yesterday. I actually thought he said something other than warlocks.
I don't speak Italian, but if I could speak Italian, I'd want to speak Italian like he speaks English. Do you know? I mean, you kind of get the gist of what he's saying, and I mean, we shouldn't knock someone's accent, but Flavio's accent is fantastic, and I don't know. I mean, you know, there's bit of pit radio discussion there. Yeah, I mean. Flavio is an organiser. He's what a race team needs. He's someone who actually doesn't have that much experience of cars or actually driving or anything like that. But what he's very good at is at organising, and he knows when he sees a group of people how to get the best out of them. Just saw it must have been Rubens doing practice starts, coming to the grid as we watch Michael leaving the pits, and as he does so, he has done all this season, leaving traditionally quite late.
Peter Windsor joins us now with Ralf Schumacher.
Well, not quite yet. He's just actually talking to his engineer, Craig White, but I'm sure we can get a word in a second. He's just taken him away, actually. But Ralf Schumacher, as I say, I think he's a bit of a dance in this race because he didn't enjoy qualifying yesterday. He didn't want to do any interviews afterwards. He was very upset about the problem on the car, which was a pressure problem to the valve system in the engine. Had to get in the spare car. Spare car didn't really have the setup on it that he liked. But nonetheless, here he is on the second row of the grid, and he's got a nice view of the first corner behind his brother, Michael. And I don't know, he's got a gut feeling about Ralph. I think he's looking relatively cool today. And Chris Starring there, who's holding the umbrella, Williams' marketing man, is also similarly encouraging about Ralph's prospects. I don't really want to interrupt these two, so you two guys want to talk back in the studio for a bit longer. Perhaps we can come back down. Oh, Craig's being distracted, so we can go for Ralph now. Ralph, nice view of the start behind your brother there. How did the car feel on the outlaps here?
Oh, it's not too bad. We just have to do a little adjustments, and then I'm pretty sure it's going to be a good race.
It's a great atmosphere here, isn't it? Do you like this circuit?
I always like the circuit, especially Montreal is a very nice city anyway, and to see all the fans here is always great here.
Pretty funky first corner there after the start as well.
It is usually, but I don't think that the first two rows should have any problems with that.
Let's hope not. Good luck, eh? Thank you.
I think we can see there actually, you know, he didn't really want to talk, did he? He's concentrating. Lots of things going on there for Ralph in the background. We're not really sure. We can only guess that, but there's a hell of a lot to concentrate on before the start of a race anyway. But the fact that he's in that state of mind is a good thing, not a bad thing.
And as his brother weaves his way up towards the front of the grid, we'll return to the back of the grid, or near the back of the grid, and join Jarno Trulli, who's talking to Nick.
Jarno Trulli starting 10th on the grid. What are your hopes for the race?
Well, first of all, it's important to get out from the first corner. Then, obviously, I would like to do a good race, try to finish it and score some points. Obviously, it's going to be a tough race. It's very long. It's tough, not physically, but mechanically for the car. We have seen a lot of retirements in the past.
Now, of course, you've had a couple of incidents that first corner before. How do you approach it this year?
As usual, I won't change anything. Obviously, I have to take care, as it's only the first corner of the first lap. I really want to get out because I feel that I got a good package.
Best luck. Thanks, Jarno.
Tell you how focused he was for qualifying. He didn't even know that Italy had lost in the World Cup.
He's in denial. But I know he's
not
Italian. No, I know, that's a fair point. But you have got some sort of Italian lineage, haven't you, Mr. Lorenzo?
50%, chemically speaking.
Well, OK, well, let's just put it behind you now and concentrate on the race. There's nothing we can do about it. Does that mean they're out of the cup?
No, not yet.
the cup. Did you notice the way I referred to it? Is that the right term?
It is the cup. Well, no one calls it the cup.
The trophy. Meanwhile, back in the world of Formula One, here we see 45% humidity, not too bad. The track sits on a little island, which is right slap in the middle of a massive, well, it's called the St. Lawrence Seaway, but it's a giant river which flows, I think, into the Hudson or something like that, or from the Great Lakes. And they have river in Canada. I mean, in America, they have. They really do have rivers. When you talk about rivers in England, there's just sort of streams by comparison to what goes on. And you see people going up the river on jet skis up through the rapids for their weekend recreation.
Well, he's had some recreation alongside the river, hasn't he?
Yeah, so he would have, if he'd had more time, he maybe would have gone for a little ride up the river there with an inflatable.
All right, let's join David Coulthard now, talking to Peter.
Obviously, a little bit of a letdown after Monte Carlo, but how's the car feel this morning?
It feels like we've had all weekend, to be honest, nervous of the rear end entries, and that's been the thing that's been affecting us on these type of tracks. I'm not as bad as the qualifying position shows, because we just didn't really make a good job of quali, but
well, it wasn't you. I mean, there were a lot of circumstances out there.
Exactly. So, you know, we're not in the same league as Ferrari at Williams, but we're the definite third next team. So I guess the challenge is, can I get by the Sauber and the Jordan?
Well, we'll be watching that with interest. What sort of places could you look here for overtaking?
We're all very similar in speeds, those other two guys that I mentioned, so unless they make a mistake out of one of the hairpins, it's unlikely you're going to just sort of tow past them. So it may be a question of... sorry, I'm always watching out for a car. I know how mad these drivers are.
Well, Michael's on the grid now. I think we're probably all okay.
Should be okay then, yeah. Thank God for that. Oh, we can just relax now.
You were saying about...
if they make a mistake or something, that might help you. Otherwise, it's strategy, so well, it'll be a long afternoon.
Okay, well, best of luck. Thank you very much.
Well, he's relaxed.
Yeah, he looks like he's ready for a fight, doesn't he, with a towel wrapped around his neck there.
Until he's going down a third.
But going down. It's going to go down.
We've got cutting bad.
But I mean, he, you know, it's a bit of a up and down year for David, isn't it? I mean, he wins Monaco, and the next week he's qualified right down there in 8th place for a Grand Prix.
Had a lot of problems yesterday in qualifying.
Yeah, I love the way we rationalise. I say we, I mean drivers, rationalise their grid positions. We're not as bad as he said. We're not as bad as where we are on the grid.
Yep.
Because we're actually better than that.
Rearrange these words into a familiar sentence.
Well, let's join the man who couldn't see the wood for the trees yesterday in qualifying, Takuma Sato, talking to Nick.
Takuma Sato, Eddie Jordan just had a long word with you. What was he saying?
Well, obviously, try and make a good race, basically. The fans here is massive, and we are very pleased to race here.
I take it really your aim, what you'd like to have, just a really quiet race, considering how it's been going recently.
No, not really, because that's my style, taking 100% committed all the time. So I'm going to be pushing the race all the time, of course.
Best of luck. Thanks, Taku.
He likes it that way.
Yeah, that's the official line, isn't it? That was the way it's Jackie Stewart. We'll get Jackie talking to Rubens back. And of course, Jackie used to run the team that Rubens drove for. And it was Stewart Racing, Stewart Grand Prix. Yeah.
Just a rough guess.
Something like that. Yeah. And yeah, Takuma Sato, I mean, to have a Japanese driver in Japan, he would be a mega hero. And so there's a lot of weight on his shoulders.
What was all that about? What did Eddie say to you before? Nice race, good crowd.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, he didn't say something like, please don't smash the car to pieces again.
No, you would. I mean, you probably didn't need to say that, actually. If
no.
You kind of...
No.
It's probably there in the background, isn't
body
it?
Language.
The body language. He's saying all those things. It's not his fault. I mean, yesterday's his engine blowout wasn't his fault.
No.
But it seems to be happening to Takuma. So he's having the old baptism of fire. But it's a funny thing, old Formula One. You can get yourself a name and a reputation for having lots of terrible things happen to you.
Is that after you've smashed it up about 6 times in a row?
Nick Heidfeld, 7th on the grid. Here he is with Peter.
Nick, after Monte Carlo, great to see you up at the right half of the grid again.
Yeah, exactly. We're very happy about 7th position, just 1 place behind the points. So that's our goal for today.
Now, they talk a lot about brakes here and the other mechanical components of the car. We've had a few engine failures as well. How do you approach this race when you know it's going to be so hard on the equipment?
Well, it's going to be, it's very important to have a good cooling for the brakes. Most teams also have a few possibilities for different brake pads, and that's what we tried to do on Friday with our long ones.
What about strategies today? Do you think we're going to see a lot of different fuel strategies up and down the pit lane?
Normally it's a one-stop race here, but maybe it's going to change this year. Tire wear for some cars look worse, and also the pit exit could change that.
Okay, well, best of luck and thank you, Nick.
Peter Winsor saying that he thinks Heidfeld and Sauber have the best chance amongst the middle rankers to maybe pull a stunt or two this afternoon.
I mean, I'd say Nick Heidfeld's got to be a stronger competitor than Fisichella. And I think that Fisichella's I'll be very interested to see how he copes with the pressure from Nick Heidfeld in the race if he stays ahead of him at the start.
OK, Arrow's usually amongst the higher-ranked minnows, if you like. Not this weekend. Enrico Bernoldi down in 17th place. Nick is talking to him now.
Enrico Bernoldi not really starting where he'd want to today. What can you do about it?
I didn't understand what he said.
So you're not restarting as far forward as you liked. How can you turn it into points?
Well, we had a car that was well balanced in the warm-up this morning when everybody has the race setup. So we found some better setup compared to qualifying from yesterday, and I hope to do a good start to overtake some cars, and then to think if you stay in the race and everyone has a good chance today, because maybe a lot of cars has problems, or you know, so I just try to overtake some people now.
That'd be great. Thanks, Enrico.
So Bernoldi, what are his chances of making a dent here at 17th?
Yeah, I like that. So what's your strategy for getting a point? Let me think. I mean, what can you do? You go to bed at night and thinking they all better break down in front of me or something happen. Otherwise, it's going to be a really hard afternoon. I mean, he's got to make 7 places just to get up to 9th, 10th place.
And Toyota's march has been halted somewhat in Canada, Perry.
Well, they've had some great showings this year, haven't they? They've surprised us on many different occasions, but unfortunately this Grand Prix doesn't seem to be working for them just at the moment. They were plagued with problems over in Monaco, obviously.
Locusts.
Yeah, yeah. Toads falling from the sky, the whole deal. And Salo actually did a most amazing thing. He felt he had a problem on the car and actually deliberately drove it into the wall just before Casino Square to try and slow it down because he didn't want to crash.
I use that excuse once.
Yeah, how did it get on?
It hurt.
Yeah. Broke the car. Yeah.
We've heard from one Sauber driver. Let's hear from the other one now. Felipe Massa talking to Nick.
Felipe Massa, we spoke to you after qualifying. You weren't particularly happy. Are you happier now since warm-up?
Yes, I think it was quite good in the warm-up. Our car balance is really good, and I hope to do a good job. I think we have a very good car to finish as well the race, and I hope to finish.
Talking about finishing, it's quite a tricky first corner. Have you mentally thought how you're going to handle that?
Every first corner is always difficult in every track, so I hope to don't happen nothing in the first corner, and I hope to finish the first corner as well.
Thanks, Felipe.
I can't get anyone to agree with me about this, but I thought Felipe Massa showed more than a bit of road rage in Monaco 2 weeks ago after being passed by Bernoldi. It looked to me as though he just drove straight into the back of it.
Well, no, I semi-agree with that, actually, Matt. I think he just totally got phased out by it and just forgot that he needed brakes slightly earlier. I do think he got a bit flustered about the entire deal. It was a great fight between the two Brazilians there, and he's overtaken them. He's thinking, right, I'll keep him under pressure. Boy, he did that successfully, pushed them straight off the road.
There's always the old question mark, isn't it, when you suggest brake failure?
That was after though, wasn't it?
Right.
Yeah. No, the brake failure was after. I mean, you could have blamed the brakes fading then, but...
No, he was using Benoli to brake.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think he was complaining of soft pedal, wasn't he, before that? That's what happened.
Anyway, Peter has been masquerading as a Ferrari team member, and it's paid off because he's got hold of Rubens Barrichello.
First question is, I know it wasn't your car, but what was the news on that engine failure this morning with Michael?
To be honest, I didn't hear what was the news. I knew that he stopped after just one lap, but I don't know what happened.
Well, you were quick this morning in the warm-up. Do you feel confident and happy with the car?
Yeah, it's a lovely track. I love to be here, so I'm starting third on the grid. Hopefully I can be higher up after the race.
You've had a few interesting moments in practice and qualifying here, a couple of spins. Why is that?
Well, the car has been a little bit nervous. It's been a bit on the edge on braking. The bumps has not been helping, but hopefully I've sorted out for the race. The warm-up seemed better.
Okay, we'll let you get on with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
From Rubens Barrichello, we cross straight to Gerhard Berger of BMW. Gerhard, thanks for joining us. Pole position again. How optimistic are you that Juan Pablo will get a better start this time round?
Well, it's always the same thing. To be too optimistic, it's a mistake. So, of course, the last week it didn't work out well, the start. We are confident that it's going to be better. Going to be a very hard race today. Hard for brakes, hard for engines on this circuit. But I think it's going to be very interesting.
Gerhard, it's Damon here. I haven't been in touch recently with the technical developments with start strategies and traction control. So how much can you tell us about how Montoya gets his car off the line for the race? Does he just press a button? What happens?
I cannot tell you anything.
Oh, well, you're no good to me then. Goodbye.
Sorry, Damon.
Oh, right, you really aren't.
Oh, you're serious? We thought it was an Austrian joke, you see. It was,
OK, well, thanks very much for your help. That's very useful. And
one last question. Hopefully you can answer this one, Gerhard. Do you think you've finally closed the gap on Ferrari? You finally caught them up?
Well, lately we've seen that is very much dependent also on the tyre performance in the weekend. I think in the last two races we saw a much closer battle because the tyre performance of our car was quite good. I think on a kind of circuit like this one, characteristic like this one, and the way the tyres worked until now this weekend, I think we should be on a very similar level.
Gerhard, hi, it's Perry McCarthy. Got to ask you a question from Monaco. Some people have said that the start problems for the Williams BMW was because one shifted the steering wheel coming off the start line. Does that affect your traction control system or not?
No, we had not this problem. We dropped a little bit of revs and we just had a bad start.
Thanks, Gerhard.
Thanks, bye-bye.
I'm not sure how much Gerhard knows about the Williams side of the operations there, because he is head of motorsport for BMW, and although they are partners, quite often you get a limited crossover of information between the chassis maker and the engine manufacturer. So it's not necessarily true that the BMW side of things will know everything that goes on at Williams, despite being very, very closely linked and working as a team. It's almost certain they would know about traction control, though, because it's very relevant to the engine. And the critical thing with traction control is to get a certain amount of wheel spin, so that the tyres actually give better acceleration if there is a small amount of wheel spin. So it's very, very important to do a lot of setup work with engine revs and actual track data during the weekend about the grip levels of the tyres and the tarmac, so that the engineers can balance the start strategy just perfectly. But I think the problem for Formula One is that when you get an optimised system, you end up with such a tiny difference between each car. So at the start, if all traction control systems are working to their optimum, the cars won't actually change position. They'll only change position relating to their horsepower. There's less error there's less actual human error factor in there. So the randomness is taken out of the start of a Grand Prix, which is not necessarily a good thing for racing.
There are variables, though, aren't there, within that?
Well, we saw Monaco, didn't we? Yeah,
Sure.
complete failure of the traction control system.
But what I do, I mean, one of the things I just really detest about the traction control stuff is that when it rains, you know, we've always seen throughout the years that any driver that's particularly brilliant has always been exceptionally fast in the rain. You know, I mean, that can be in Formula Ford, in Formula 3, in Formula 3000.
Yeah.
You know, anybody who's been extremely fast in the rain all the way through that is obviously, you know, quite a brilliant driver.
Up the track, and of course if it does begin to roll off little bits of tarmac in conjunction with the rubber, so we may see a few problems arise later in the race. Just something to keep an eye on when cars are coming into turn one.
Take a look at the track layout once again, and the grid itself, of course. The lineup for today's race, seeing all 22 cars. They will undertake this 4.361 kilometre track, some 2.7 miles long, and the race distance 70 laps this year, so up one on previous years, and we'll see just what happens throughout the course of this. Ross Brawn, a quick last wish of good luck to Rubens Barrichello, starting in third place on the grid here today. And watch out for the next light disappearing as the countdown to the formation lap continues.
Well, I just wonder what Ferrari have chosen to do. I wonder will they have both cars on the same strategies? We saw them do a two-stop strategy in Austria, and of course they dominated that Grand Prix. May not have the same level of domination, may not even dominate it at all, but it could be that Ferrari have also decided to opt for something which is mathematically a quicker way to run the Grand Prix, but it's all about where you file back into the lap and the traffic that's around you, and you've got to be very, very careful that you don't find yourself trapped behind cars that then you're unable to get over or get past as quickly as you would like.
A reminder on the grid: Montoya and Michael, Barrichello and Ralph, Raikkonen and Fisichella, then Heidfeld and Coulthard starting 8th, Villeneuve 9th and Trulli 10th, Olivier Panis starting in 11th place in the second BAR Honda, and in 12th place just behind him is Felipe Massa. The second half of the grid: Button and Irvine, the two British drivers alongside one another, Sato and De La Rosa, Bernaldi and Salo, Frentzen and McNish, and the two Minardis at the back. Mark Webber and Alexander Jung will bring up the rear of the grid here. Beautiful sunshine as we are just a few moments away from the start of the formation lap for round 8 of the FIA Formula One World Championship. Colombian Juan Pablo Montoya starts from pole position after a stunning qualifying lap yesterday, and Michael Schumacher will do his best from that second spot on the grid to try and beat him into the first corner. It's going to be a tough battle on that curving main start-finish straight down to the first corner. Let's hope they can keep it clean, and the fans here in Montreal just building up to what should be an incredibly exciting encounter. The third time that these two have been on the front row together, and 2 occasions this year they've crashed on the first lap.
But I've seen a maturity in Juan Pablo Montoya. He didn't have a good start in Monte Carlo, but I think coming here to Canada, he knows what he's got to do. The problems he felt he had in Monaco are behind him, and he's got the confidence, he's got the performance and the power from BMW, and he will clearly want to put his car into turn 1 in first position. From there on, well, it's really down to the teams as to how they choose to run this race. 2 pit stops is unusual here in Canada, but this year, due to the circuit changes, the new layout in turn 2 and down at turn 10, the hairpin bend, it is the quickest way to run a Grand Prix, but it is ultimately about where you can come back in and if you get it wrong, then it'll be a complete waste of effort and time.
It's a massive crowd here, gathered today, over 120,000 people. The Canadian fans will certainly be cheering for Jacques Villeneuve, who starts in 9th, but Montoya has a massive amount of support as well. He's all ready to lead the cars away at the start of the formation lap. The formation lap gets underway, a chance to see how well the car gets off the line, and Montoya will be hoping to be able to do that ahead of Michael Schumacher in a few moments when the real start is made.
And I just watched Montoya, the way his car was lined up in the starting box. He wasn't square in the box, he was slightly to an angle, because he wants to make sure that when he goes off the line, his car is pointing towards the turn 1. That's the most important part of the circuit on that first run down into turn 1. So his car was not totally square, it was slightly off square. So watch for Montoya. He will have laid rubber, as will everybody on the grid. He'll come up, line the car up on that rubber to guarantee maximum traction, including the launch control, when the 5 lights, the 5 red lights to start this Grand Prix go out.
Colombian fans and Ferrari fans are together in the grandstands, waiting to see which of these two drivers comes out on top. And behind these two, remember, are their teammates. There's Barrichello, there is Ralf Schumacher, last year's race winner here in Canada. They start on the second row of the grid. Any problems between Montoya and Michael Schumacher, and it could be Barrichello and Ralf Schumacher to be battling up front. Kimi Räikkönen for McLaren just behind. This is Jacques Villeneuve. He starts down in 9th position. It's his best qualifying performance of the year so far in the BAR Honda, but he still has not scored any points this season. Needs to get into the top 6 here today to try and break that duck and get into the points in 2002.
Well, this is one of those Grand Prix where by finishing, your chances of being in the points are probably much higher than in many other Grand Prix. We always think of the early Grand Prix in the season, those that are outside of Europe, are races where you can pick up points relatively easily. Once you get into the European season, points are more difficult to come by, but Canada's one of those races where if you can finish, your chances are going to be improved.
So now they make their way down the longest straight here on the Ile Notre Dame in the St. Lawrence Seaway, down towards the last corner. This right-left flick, which has seen the wall move back slightly for this season to improve the safety, but it's still a very demanding corner, a very easy corner at which to make a mistake. You see how close the tyre barrier is to the outside there. If a driver runs a little wide, he's straight into the tyres on that outside. David Coulthard's girlfriend just keeping an eye on what's going on. She saw her man win in Monaco 2 weeks ago. It's going to be tough for him this time, starting in 8th place on the grid. And the Ferrari engineers keeping a very close eye on what's happening. Montoya again has lined up at that angle.
Yes, you can see the angle of Michael Schumacher's Ferrari on the right of our picture as we look back at the grid, and also Montoya is at an angle, so he clearly is very anxious to use to full advantage his pole position.
Montoya starts from pole then. Can he beat Michael Schumacher, the 4 times world champion, into the first corner? And then can he go on to take victory in Canada? He won in Vancouver a couple of years ago when he was driving in the Champ Car Series. Now he's in Formula 1. He wants victory here in Montreal. The last few cars are making their way onto the grid. The light sequence begins. When the lights go out, the race gets underway. The Canadian Grand Prix gets underway, and it's a great start for Montoya. He chops in front of Michael Schumacher. Barrichello in the second Ferrari moves into 2nd place. Barrichello into 2nd, 3rd place for Michael Schumacher. Räikkönen going round the outside and trying to move up into 4th and getting past Ralf Schumacher.
And it looks a clean start from the entire field through turns 1 and 2. Now they filter through 3 and 4. And this field, Montoya has grabbed the lead. And Rubens Barrichello now, think about Barrichello. Why did he do that? Starting in the second row of the grid, was his car lighter than Michael Schumacher's? I suggest already that may be the case.
Well, it was a great start from Kimi Räikkönen. Look at Montoya now in front of Michael Schumacher as he comes around this first lap. Keep it clean. And ahead of Barrichello, not ahead of Schumacher. Barrichello in 2nd, Schumacher in 3rd. Here's a little battle going on as Jenson Button and Jacques Villeneuve, and Button goes up into 10th.
David Coulthard made a good start as well. He's come from 8th up to 6th behind Ralf Schumacher. And it's the Sauber of Heidfeld was the loser in that opening first 3 corners.
So it's Montoya, Barrichello, then Michael Schumacher. And Michael Schumacher not as quick now. That is a surprise to see. The top two getting away a little bit. Barrichello going on the chase of the Williams of Montoya, and Schumacher not quite able to keep the pace. Oh, a little bit wide through there. And look at Villeneuve under attack once again. Well, Button got past him. He got repassed. And now look at this. Barrichello on Montoya. Barrichello takes the lead for Ferrari.
Barrichello and Eddie. Pedro de la Rosa in the Jaguar. This is coming into turns 14 and 15. He's hit the wall on the outside. He's into the pits. But Rubens Barrichello, on horsepower, on sheer speed, has put his Ferrari ahead of Juan Pablo Montoya. We saw Ross Brawn lean into the cockpit and say something to Rubens. I think what he said to Rubens is, you've got a light car, you go out and try to force the pace with Montoya.
Take a look at the start once again. Montoya from the right made a great start, cut straight in front, but watch Barrichello from the second row.
Well, Barrichello comes up on acceleration easily. In fact, Michael Schumacher didn't challenge him, so the Ferrari team are up to some little game. And we believe that game is that Barrichello's on a very light fuel load. Michael Schumacher might be on a one-stop load. And in a way that the two cars, as we come, this is the replay of Barrichello passing Montoya into turn one at the end of lap one.
Well, Montoya may have made a little mistake at that top corner, but even so, Barrichello showing a great turn of speed to be able to nip past into the first corner. Now that was as Montoya came through that last corner, and in fact there you can see Kimi Raikkonen went straight across, so did Ralf Schumacher, straight across the curb there.
I think they're anticipating a problem with the front of the field. There we see it, is it Button as well doing the same thing now. That may be a penalty. We have to keep an eye on this. We've got cars being registered as missing turn 15. If they gained any advantage, that will be a penalty. They may have to come in and get a drive-through penalty for that. It doesn't look to me like that happened, but look at Giancarlo Fisichella and Felipe Massa down into Sato.
Yeah, it's Sato. It's Takuma Sato versus Massa, that's right. And this is the battle for 14th position. Just ahead of them is Mika Salo in the Toyota. So Mika Salo's done well because he didn't qualify that brilliantly. He was 18th on the grid, but Salo's already got up to 13th place. Great going for the Toyota driver, who's moved up through the field already. But up front, it's Barrichello who leads.
Now let's look. The Jaguar on the left of your screen. You see him coming down. There's contact between McNish. Oh, just McNish. Oh, yeah, there is. So McNish squeezed across. Pedro de la Rosa had nowhere to go. He goes into the wall. He's driven into the pit lane. His right front is flat, as you see, but he's now back out on the racetrack. No damage to the car, just simply that right front against the rear of McNish's Toyota.
Yeah, punctured the tyres, but otherwise the car apparently okay. So he is back on track, as you say, and chasing after the field. But it's Rubens Barrichello, the Brazilian, the experienced Brazilian, who's only won one Grand Prix in his time, driving for Ferrari, of course. It was the German Grand Prix in 2000, but he's up front here ahead of Montoya, Michael Schumacher. There's Kimi Raikkonen, the young Finn. Then it's Ralf Schumacher in the Williams BMW. Coulthard is in 6th, Heidfeld 7th, then Jarno Trulli is 9th, and just behind Fisichella, who is in 8th, and then in 10th place Jenson Button ahead of Jacques Villeneuve in 11th, and we've got another battle.
Enrique Bernoldi slides up alongside and gets past Eddie Irvine. That was a battle for 16th. Bernoldi has taken away Irvine 16th and is accelerating away from the Jaguar out of turn 2.
So that was a good move from Enrique Bernoldi, another of the young Brazilians who are making their name in Formula One at the moment, along with Felipe Massa in particular. The top three make their way up through turns numbers 8 and 9. Ralf Schumacher there, currently down in 5th position. Defending race winner from last year. Now, he has his work cut out. He's already chasing Kimi Raikkonen, but what can he do about the gap? Up front, Barrichello, fast again.
There's an oil slick on the track, that may be from another event. Michael Schumacher in 3rd place, and it is the lead car, Rubens Barrichello, Montoya and Michael Schumacher, who are pulling away from the field fairly comfortably. A 4.6 second gap between 1st and 4th place. Kimi Raikkonen really now holding up to some degree. Ralf Schumacher in the 2nd of the Williams.
Let's just ride on board. Michael Schumacher briefly as he comes down to the first corner. That's Salo getting past Panis, and that's 4th position. So good move. That puts Salo up into 12th.
And the top speed.
Look behind. Look, Sato now. Takuma Sato trying to get past Olivier Panis. He's going to have a go surely into the first corner. No, he does probably the sensible thing at that point and tucks in behind.
And then just looking at the speeds down the straight, it's this car, it's Jordan of Sato who's been the quickest, but this is all due to the cars being bunched together coming down that final straight, that they're getting a huge slipstream. You've got to be careful once again as you come down to the braking zones not to overrun the car that is directly ahead of you. but something like 211 miles an hour from Takuma Sato's Honda Jordan.
Now let's ride with Salo here. That Toyota running extremely well, just coming up through one of the chicanes at the top end of the track, heading up towards the hairpin, the casino turn, and Mika Salo are definitely the man on the move. Let's watch him at the hairpin. You can hear the traction control working on the engine. That sound as if the engine's misfiring, but that's all programmed in to increase the traction, allow better drive off the corner, and Mika Salo in 12th place.
And once again, fastest lap of the race on lap 5 goes to Rubens Barrichello. If he is on a lighter fuel load than Juan Pablo Montoya, he needs to use all that advantage as early as possible to build up sufficiently. But look at this battle behind.
This is Takuma Sato, remember, challenging Olivier Panis. This is for 13th place, but he doesn't get through. And behind him is, well, these are two of the most exciting rookies in the race this year, Sato and Felipe Massa. Now, Massa's lost ground since the start. Looks as though that car might be pretty heavy as Michael Schumacher rips off one of those tear-off visors. Great view looking at the 4-time world champion. He's currently down in 3rd place, but this might all be part of the plan. So Michael Schumacher, 3rd position, but it's his teammate Rubens Barrichello who's leading. So great on-board pictures with Michael. And once again we switch to Mika Salo, and Salo now putting the attack on Villeneuve.
Well, that's just sheer horsepower and lack of weight. I mean, he just pulled up behind the Honda, showing that Toyota horsepower at this point of the Grand Prix certainly is giving Mika Salo a huge advantage. But Salo clearly is on a low fuel load. You just don't catch and overtake people as easily as that. The benefit of doing that is probably worth about, well, up to half, maybe 3/4 of a second per lap in favour of Salo. But we've got a glimpse of Sato getting alongside Olivier Panis, and he's got through.
He's done it, he's got through, you're right. So Takuma Sato, the Japanese driver, up into 13th position now, and that was a good move. Now Felipe Massa wants to follow him through. Looks like both BAR Hondas are running a full fuel load here because neither Panis nor Villeneuve are really able to put up an effective challenge.
But that was a courageous move from the young Japanese driver. He got himself into position, coming down that front straight, got alongside the BAR Honda, and then was able to take the corner away from Olivier Panis. For Felipe Massa, he's got more speed than Panis has got, but again, he's got to find the right part of track. And so far, looking at the top speed, we're not seeing any of the Sabres in the top 6 in terms of straight line speed.
No, he's not perhaps as fast in a straight line as he would like, and he actually got a bit sideways out of that fast turn 5 a moment ago. Usually a flat-out corner, fairly straightforward, maybe just got onto the dirt a little bit. Up towards the casino hairpin, building up to a speed of about 190 miles an hour. Now hard on the brakes and down to around 50 miles an hour to get around this hairpin. Better grip here than before with that new track surface, but he can't make the most of it to close on Panis.
And he really has to get very close to Panis, round that slow first gear hairpin bend to ensure that he accelerates behind the BAR Honda, and at this point gets alongside.
Oh, and across the curve, both Sato and I think that might it was Villeneuve. Yes, it was Villeneuve
but
this
Sato
time.
drops back and lets Villeneuve take the position. Otherwise, he would have been brought in. So Sato intelligently realised he'd gained advantage, drops back, lets Villeneuve retain that position, and good teamwork from the Jordan team.
Barrichello leads. There was Montoya coming through the chicane a moment ago, and hopefully he made it safely through. He did indeed. Quick look at Sato on his attack here as he tried to get past Villeneuve. Takuma Sato really challenging in this race at the moment. The young Japanese driver had a go at getting past Villeneuve, but not quite coming off. Our race leader, we ride with him, Rubens Barrichello, as he is about to, he's gone through the chicane, he's gone over the curve now. As long as he doesn't gain an advantage in terms of position, he'll be okay. And of course, Montoya's far enough behind him, that shouldn't make any difference. There is our second place man. Now this is the battle between Massa and Panis for 14th.
Well, at least he's now closer to him than he was in the previous lap. He actually got ahead, but he outbraked himself. Now he can get alongside, put his car along on the right-hand side. Here he comes, up alongside the BAR. He's now going to put himself into prime position. Again, this battle with, oh my goodness, it's getting exciting with Takuma Sato, but Felipe Massa has done it on Olivier Panis, and Takuma Sato, we believe, has done it to Jacques Villeneuve. This time it sticks.
So Sato moves up to 12th. Now Villeneuve finds him down in 13th. Massa's 14th, Panis 15th, and then right behind them they've got to watch out because Enrique Bernoldi in the arrows is flying along as well, and he's joined the train. He's in 16th position.
Here's the replay of the move. Felipe Massa started before going into turn 10. Just a little bit late in the brakes, loses that position he'd just taken, but at least he was in position to get it at the end of the straight. Here's Rubens Barrichello at the end of lap 8. He got it all wrong, under braking into 14 and 15. Decided that prudence was the right thing, go across the runoff area. He didn't gain any time, he didn't gain any position, obviously, so no penalty for Barrichello.
Our leaders come through. Barrichello chased by Montoya, and there is Michael Schumacher in the second Ferrari. A consistent pace, a 118.1 for him last time around, a 118.2 as Barrichello goes across the line. Slightly faster for Montoya, and in fact Montoya faster than either Ferrari on that last lap by about 0.3 of a second. The gap between first and second now exactly 3 seconds.
But the big gap that's going to be worrying Williams is that Ralf Schumacher is caught behind Kimi Räikkönen.
Villeneuve's in trouble, John. Villeneuve right at the back of the picture there. That is the Canadian, and I'm afraid his race is run, and what a disappointment that will be to so many Canadian fans here today. They've turned out in huge numbers to support their man, but sadly he is out. Here comes Bernoldi, Enrique Bernoldi on Villeneuve's teammate, and he slides down the inside into turn 1.
Yes, and Bernoldi, a good pass in a difficult part of the racetrack. You're having to accelerate out of that turn 15. You must get alongside once again before you can make the move stick. Bernoldi judged it perfectly, but Olivier Panis in reality didn't offer any defence at all.
So great disappointment for the BAR team. They were hoping for good things this weekend and looking to get into the points. They have one car left in this race, but the stranded, stricken machine of Jacques Villeneuve tells a sad tale. He is a retirement, the first retirement, well, in this race after problems. De La Rosa still going, of course. Montoya again across the curb.
Yes, now whether there's, I can't see anything on the circuit at that point. All I can think is there's maybe just the beginnings of the tyre deterioration and grip levels. Montoya did start this race on a used set of tyres. We might know that Michael Schumacher started on a new set.
Now this is Villeneuve on board with him. Let's see if we can see what happened. Oh, that was Bernoldi behind him. Now this was behind Panis, sorry. And this was the battle as Bernoldi tried to find a way through.
Now Bernoldi actually did pass. This is Panis. Bernoldi gets it right on the lock stops. He's no choice this time but to go across the runoff area. He didn't get an advantage there, but he did get it here because he picked up speed, was able to get alongside Panis going into turn 1 and took the position away. So once again, seeing a lot of cars. I don't see where that part of track is a problem. It just only can simply be down to tyre grip, tyre levels, and well, drivers need to be careful.
The yellow dots at the on the screen indicating we still have the yellow flags out, and that's because of Villeneuve's car stopped at the side of the road, just to warn drivers that there is a car stationary. There it is, and the leader's coming past it once again. Rubens Barrichello in the foreground. The gap 3 point
balance. See if we can generate front temperature.
A little bit of radio to Juan Pablo Montoya, and the team asking him to adjust the brake balance there.
Yes, they want to get the temperatures more equally balanced. This is a circuit that is extremely hard on brakes, and if one end of the car is braking more than the other, then you will wear that set of brakes out more quickly. So
now let's see what happens as they complete another lap. Lap 11 has been completed, and Montoya again putting in a very fast lap on that last lap, a 1:17.748, 2/10 faster than Barrichello, our race leader, and a full half second faster than Michael Schumacher. Now, tyre performance may vary a little bit as they go through the stint. Perhaps the Michelin tyre, now it's done a few laps, is really coming into its own. Let's see whether Montoya continues to lap a little faster than the Ferraris over the next few laps.
Well, after that blinding start from Barrichello, we really thought he was going to run away with the lead of this race, but really the gap staying fairly constant around the 3.5 seconds. And Juan Pablo Montoya on that last lap was 0.2 of a second faster than the race leader. Still that yellow flag station there at Villeneuve's car. It's not a part of the racetrack that anyone would ever attempt to overtake. Of course, it is prohibited to pass under a yellow flag, but immediately they pass Villeneuve's car, the green flag is shown, and that means the track is free to pass.
Great view from the outside here, and you can see that even Michael Schumacher gets a bit out of shape.
Tony, he was running in lift map 2. We switched to 3. You can still go to 4, which will be full engine braking.
And there we are, listening to
we'll see how he is at the moment.
a little bit more of the team radio, and Williams talking about how they could still change the engine setup, the engine mapping, and give him more engine braking if he wants it.
Yes, and that is in conjunction, well, we see a safety car is on standby. Now that may well be because they want to remove Villeneuve's car. It is not safe for the corner workers. There they are working. Of course, this car should have been put into neutral. There is an external lever to ensure that the car does find neutral, but they're working there in a precarious position. The orange dot on the right of your screen means that the safety car is on standby.
Rubens Barrichello is our race leader. 12 laps and nearly 13 laps completed now. He's putting in a very quick lap this time around. We saw Montoya faster on the previous lap, but now Barrichello is setting the pace. Fastest through the first sector, fastest through the second sector, and Barrichello's putting the hammer down once again. So we thought the Michelins might be coming in, but I tell you what, it looks like the Bridgestones are working just as effectively. He's going to set a new fastest lap here, 1:16.947. Barrichello just opens up that lead again to Montoya. It's up to 4.3 seconds.
Yes, it's as if suddenly Rubens woke up and decided, oops, I've maybe got an advantage. And he's now opened that gap from 3.5 on lap 12 up to 4.3 seconds on lap 13.
Montoya at work now. Looks controlled, looks composed, but it's not enough to match this man. It all depends on how much fuel these respective cars are running. Barrichello is surely running with a light car. He is pushing to the absolute limit every lap. You can see the car.
On one's car, we would also want to check the left-hand rad duct for debris. Left-hand rad duct for debris on one's car.
Oh, and Barrichello just getting a little bit of a twitch into the hairpin.
Okay.
Listening to more team radio from the Williams team there.
Yes, debris, that means there's a lot of, it's not quite leaf, it's actually, there the safety car is preparing to go out on track.
Yeah, it is being deployed. We've got the two orange dots. Now, will Ferrari decide to put in a pit stop here? If they're running that car light, lap 13, it's quite early, really earlier than you would think for a...
Montoya's in.
Quick, everyone
Montoya.
quick. Tyres out. Just rears, 12 rears, 12 rears and fuel.
And we're listening to the team radio.
On both sides, please.
And also, of course, they were saying they were concerned about the radiator inlets. They want to clear the engineers diving in this temperature rise for Montoya. Down into turns 7 and 8, we saw a lot of litter flower leaf on the track. So fresh rear tyres, clear out the air boxes. Out he goes.
Quite a lot of fuel went in, so they put a good amount of fuel in on that stop. And Montoya becomes the first man to stop here.
And he gets out ahead of David Coulthard, who returns in 5th place.
So pretty effective that, coming back out in 5th position with the safety car now out and of course bringing all the cars close together.
I think that was pretty smart thinking. The Williams team were well and truly on that case, but I think they were alerted, as we see now Jordan, and this is Takuma Sato in the pits as well. The team had seen a temperature rise for Montoya. There are a lot of, just at this point here, we don't see it now because the cars are not disturbing it, but there's flower leaf and leaves on the track, and if that gets into those air intakes, particularly on the radiator sides, then that will see a build-up of temperature. So opportunism on the one hand, but here's the other problem. This car has been stranded. It is mandatory on the part of teams and the driver of any given car, if it comes to a stop on the circuit, that the clutch must be enabled to disengage the gearbox. In other words, they can push the car away. That appears not to be the case. There's some of that leaf litter we were talking about.
Yeah, but also the lockup I was looking at, John, there. The thing actually locked up a bit like when he came out of the pits yesterday, and the whole thing might have just seized up so much that perhaps even that clutch lever's not working. I don't know.
It could be the case, but it would ordinarily be an issue that the team could be in problems because that car was not be able to be moved by the marshals without bringing out one of the wreckers that they use around the Canadian circuit.
So everybody now following the safety car. 14 laps have been completed. Rubens Barrichello ahead of Michael Schumacher with Kimi Räikkönen now 3rd. Looking at David Coulthard, of course running now in that line behind Montoya, with Montoya managing to re-emerge. And now looking in the pits, we've got Enrique Bernoldi in the pits for Arrows. So he has decided also to come in at this early stage of the race. He's been putting in a good performance so far, fighting his way up the order a little bit. Clean pit stop, he makes his way down pit lane.
Yes, he's driven hard. He's been exciting. We've seen him getting it absolutely sideways in turn 15. And this was an issue that teams, they may well have factored it in to a potential strategy, but they would really have to look at what was a normal Grand Prix without any incidents like this. We look at Bernd Mailander, who drives the safety car, one of these new Mercedes-Benz SL55 AMGs, and he will be driving his heart out to keep a decent pace for the field of 22 cars, in fact now 21 cars, because Jacques Villeneuve is the only retirement to date. And no matter how fast a road car is, it is quite difficult to run fast enough to keep the field of cars behind you running at a speed where tyre temperatures don't drop away and the correspondent reduction of tyre pressure. Always a big issue with Formula One cars when a safety car is out on track for any length of time.
Glinting in the sunshine, we see Raikkonen come through in third. Ralf Schumacher is fourth, just ahead now, of course, of his Williams teammate, Juan Pablo Montoya.
In terms of lap time.
Listening to a bit of radio. Coulthard is sixth, Heidfeld seventh, Fisichella is in eighth place, Trulli ninth, Button 10th. The two Renaults just inside the top 10, therefore. Salo is the main mover in this first part of the race because he started down in 18th position and has moved all the way up to 11th. But it does look as though Heinz-Harald Frentzen, or is it Bernoldi coming back in? Frentzen probably lining to come into the pits now. The other Arrows driver, Frentzen, currently running down in 16th position.
But the real interest will be at the restart when the safety car comes off track as to whether the Williams team, who have now got their cars running 4th and 5th, but it's Ralf Schumacher ahead of Montoya. Montoya's made that stop, he's refueled, he's taken on tyres, he's cleared out the air intakes in his car. Will the team instruct Ralf Schumacher to let Montoya go, or will they let the guys sort it out on the track, or what's going to happen?
We shall see. We're still under safety car, effectively under a full course yellow as we wait, but the safety car will be in on this lap. So we shall see the safety car coming in at the end of this lap, and Barrichello will once again be trying to pull away from Michael Schumacher and Kimi Raikkonen. The McLaren Mercedes driver were there into the pits. Indeed, we've got the other Arrows of Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
And that's a problem on that right rear. As we see, that's Bernoldi in for the second time. In fact, he went out and something with the right rear wasn't right. He's come back in and sitting there, and as he sits there, the field still makes its way around this 2.747 mile circuit on the L'Île Notre Dame in the middle of the St. Lawrence Seaway in Canada. And, well, we've been just the third lap under the safety car. And the real focus of interest, I think, is going to be what happens when the safety car goes in, particularly with Ralf Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya, but most notably because Kimi Raikkonen, lights right on the safety car, it'll come in at the end of this lap. But Kimi Raikkonen was holding up Ralf Schumacher all the way through this race. Now Montoya's behind the two of them. What's going to happen? Will there be a battle for third place? Will Raikkonen, well, he'll obviously defend his third place, but it's really going to be whether Williams say to Ralf Schumacher, let Montoya have a go at Raikkonen. You have not been successful.
So we're getting ready for the restart here. It will be going on to lap number 17 out of 70 in the Canadian Grand Prix. So far we've seen Barrichello storm ahead from the start of this race. He got in front at the end of the first lap. He now leads the train of cars around under yellow at the moment, but as they come through the last corner, they will be back up to speed. And look how much time Raikkonen's lost already. And that is really hurting the Williamses as they see the Ferraris disappearing. Barrichello and Michael Schumacher have really got on with it here. They have that, they're allowed to do that. And it was Raikkonen who was asleep and has let them get away.
Yes, that was surprising that Kimi Raikkonen, always bright as a pin, seemed to get caught flat-footed there as the two Ferraris accelerated before they came into turns 14 and 15, and there was no way he could close down the gap because the two Ferraris were running at race speed.
Bit of a lock-up from Juan Pablo Montoya. The two Ferraris, Raikkonen, then Ralf Schumacher, now currently in fourth place. Montoya right behind him, his teammate. Then it's Coulthard, then it's Heidfeld. There is Fisichella coming through. Jarno Trulli, Jensen Button just behind, Mika Salo behind that. But you're riding now with Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari.
And they're just about under a second. Ahead of you is Rubens Barrichello. Again, all that litter on the side of the track, we've been telling you to watch for that. That will cause problems. It already caused a reason. That was why Montoya went into the pits, I believe, above all, to get rid of all that leaf litter in his air intakes.
So Raikkonen comes through. There's the pressure he's now under from the two Williams BMWs. Bernoldi's race is over. We saw him come in for that second stop. Frentzen has not stopped at all. He has stayed out there. He's still 16th. But Bernoldi reporting that he felt something strange on the car. They couldn't find anything, but it's obviously something that's endangering him, and he's decided to call it a day. Oh, look at this. That's Ralf Schumacher making a mistake, and I think Montoya might have well got past. Let's try and pick them up as they come into that first corner. It's the two Ferraris. Look at this battle. Montoya gets down the inside of Raikkonen. Montoya's into third place.
Great move by Juan Pablo Montoya. I just saw Ralf Schumacher on the left-hand side of the track. He should have been on right. But the main thing is he didn't just get past Schumacher. He also got past Kimi Raikkonen. And that was a dream opportunity for Juan Pablo Montoya, who can now close back up to the rear of the two Ferraris. He's been in, he's refueled, he's got fresh rear tyres. Right now, everything is looking very good indeed for Juan Pablo Montoya.
Well, that was quite a move, wasn't it? We saw it just developing, coming through that last corner. Now, whether Ralf Schumacher made a mistake, we didn't quite see it all happen, but the net result, let's take a look here. Now, you've got Raikkonen coming in first. Raikkonen goes across the curb, launches it.
So does Ralf Schumacher.
Yeah, they both make a mistake there, and it's Montoya who's maintained the momentum.
Yes, now Ralf Schumacher didn't pass Raikkonen at that point, but Juan Pablo Montoya had the opportunity because the speed of the Williams and the McLaren was way below that of Montoya's. He got past two cars into turn one, and real opportunism started by Kimi Raikkonen getting it wrong in turn 15.
The Iceman can make mistakes, and that was a mistake from the Finn. There he is, just turning in ahead of Ralf Schumacher, but Kimi Raikkonen definitely losing out there and costing himself the place to Juan Pablo Montoya. And now look, Raikkonen is going to be passed, is he, by Ralf Schumacher, trying to go around the outside. This is almost impossible, and in fact Ralf has to cut in behind. Raikkonen slides, Ralf Schumacher looking for a way past.
Well, there's no way to go around the outside, and Raikkonen is clever enough, even though he's inexperienced by Ralf Schumacher's standards, to close the door on the exit of turn one, and Ralf Schumacher wisely backed out of the throttle. We've seen drivers trying to force the issue, and all it does is result in a collision.
So Ralf has to try and line him up somewhere else around the track. Behind these two, Coulthard is only a second behind them, so if they get themselves tangled up, Coulthard will take advantage. Then it's Heidfeld, Fisichella, Trulli, Button, Salo, Felipe Massa in 12th, and Panis in 13th.
Just listening to Ralf Schumacher coming out of turn 7, he was having to wait to get full throttle. Now in qualifying sessions that was just flat out on the exit, so clearly the level of grip that Ralf Schumacher's got at the rear of his Williams BMW is not as great as he needs to keep in contact with Kimi Raikkonen and the McLaren ahead of him, and that's why he's not able to really launch any major attacks on the McLaren.
Through come the Ferraris, and you can see they're still pushing very hard. This is going to be perhaps a new fastest lap for a very quick lap. It is a new fastest lap for Rubens Barrichello. That's 1 minute 16.600, and we're waiting for Montoya to come through. Montoya only a 1:18.094, but of course he's got a lot of fuel on board now. Despite the new rear tyres they put on the car, he's got a lot of fuel, so he cannot maintain the pace of these two Ferraris ahead of him.
And the pace of Rubens Barrichello on a 1:16.6 has already eclipsed the fastest race lap last year. That was on lap 50. This was on lap 20 by 0.6 of a second. It was a 1:17.2 last year.
Perfect conditions, the sunshine glinting off the two Ferraris as they head around at the front of the field, but they have not made any pit stops yet. Now then, taking a look from the Williams front ring. Let's just ride on board a second here. Ralf Schumacher on the chase of Kimi Raikkonen. And there you can see the gap, just under half a second between the two of them.
And you can even see now the brake dust from Raikkonen's McLaren Mercedes-Benz breaking down from almost 190 miles an hour down to about 45 for that very tight turn 10 hairpin bend.
The V10 engine working hard down this long straight, building up to about 205 miles per hour here before getting on the brakes. You can see a little bit of the carbon brake dust being thrown off the wheels there, that little cloud of black dust, but still Ralf Schumacher chasing Raikkonen.
But Raikkonen is having to work for his fourth place. You can see, we noticed it earlier in the lap, then breaking down into turn 14, how much carbon dust was coming. Now Raikkonen needs to be careful. The team have to see that. They may well want to tell him to put a little bit more rear braking bias to, let's say, ease up the front brake and not just simply just wear the things out.
So Montoya in third. Now he is dropping away. The gap now between himself and Barrichello, race leader, up to 8.4 seconds. But he just needs to keep it all under control at the moment, running with a heavier car and hoping that this race will come back to him in the later stages. Action down there in the Arrows pit. They've seen Bernoldi go out of the race. Frentzen still running in 16th.
Yes, they're looking around the rear suspension. Nothing that was visual, but quite often there's something in the hub assembly that holds on the rear suspension and allows the wheel to be attached to the suspension. That sometimes can be a problem, and if a driver feels an odd feeling in the back of a car, frequently it is in the hub, and it's probably a bearing problem.
You're looking for the car from the car in fourth, back at Ralf Schumacher in fifth. We're riding with Kimi Räikkönen. Now, see that little cloud of brake dust again? Cleanly this time through the last corner.
Yes, but for me that little bit of brake dust is very early in the race, and there's quite a lot of it early in the race. We're coming up to the end of lap 22. They've got another there again under, but that's actually, it looked like to me like an engine thing rather than that was not brake dust. There was more blue in that than there was carbon black.
Let's continue to ride with Räikkönen here. You can hear how hard the engine works around this circuit. And even there, John, you could hear that slight lift off the throttle in turn 5.
It's the way they pick the throttle up on the exit of 7, not as quick as in qualifying.
So the Mercedes V10 engine working hard in the back of the McLaren here as he tries to stay ahead of the Williams BMW of Ralf Schumacher. And Ralf just cannot quite get close enough to challenge into the hairpin. You see how he closes under braking and turning, but of course on acceleration Räikkönen gets away again.
Yes, going back a couple of laps when Räikkönen in fact went across the final 2 turns. He went across the runoff area. We think we saw a small bit of one of those carbon fibre body aerodynamic parts, and if that did come off, now look, Ralf Schumacher, well, we just lost the picture, but Ralf Schumacher closing on Räikkönen into those final 2 turns, trying to position himself to take advantage of any problem that Räikkönen may have created for himself.
23 laps out of 70 laps have been completed, leaving us 47 to go. And through come the 2 leaders, the 2 Ferraris, dominating in the early stages of the Canadian Grand Prix. But Juan Pablo Montoya has made a pit stop already and is in a strong 3rd position. Räikkönen for McLaren is in 4th place. Then it's Ralf Schumacher and David Coulthard. Nick Heidfeld in the Sauber is 7th. Fisichella in the Jordan Honda is 8th. Trulli in the Renault is 9th. And Salo, let me just tell you that Mika Salo's moved up to 10th, so he's found a way past Jenson Button. So all happening all the way through the field. Kimi Räikkönen at the moment holding on to 4th place from an attacking Ralf Schumacher. Again, you can just listen to that engine, really the revs dropping down a lot as he comes into the hairpin and looking for the traction, looking for that low down horsepower to try and drive him off the corner. But for Räikkönen, so far so good. He is managing to keep Ralf behind him. Must be kicking himself for the mistake that allowed Montoya through. Montoya said thank you very, very much indeed. A 1 minute 16.7 from Barrichello, a 1 minute 16.9 from Michael Schumacher, a 1 minute 18.0 from Montoya. So Montoya about a second a lap slower at this stage in the race. He's now 13 seconds off the leader, and there we are with our race leader, Rubens Barrichello.
Well, a little bit of news from the pit lane from Jacques Villeneuve, and basically he said over the last lap and a bit before he finally retired, just losing performance, and it was an engine problem. One suspects it may have been very similar to that we saw in qualifying when he had an engine seize up, and basically asked a very direct question, well, Jacques, were you on a 1 or 2 stop strategy today? And he said we were on a very late 1-stop strategy. They were starting from 9th in the grid, and they felt that that was the best chance they had to get into the points. Unfortunately for Villeneuve and BAR Honda, they're down to 1 runner, Olivier Panis, who currently is down in 13th place.
Now, Toyota are getting ready for a pit stop. They're down in the pit lane preparing for one of their cars. We thought that Salo in particular must have been running pretty light in the early stages. He's moved up from 18th to 10th in the first 25 laps of this race. You're looking at Montoya currently in 3rd position, but here is Salo. Just behind him is Jenson Button, and in fact, there's a place change there. There was a mistake. Or was that McNish there coming through? We'll try and keep an eye. I think that was Salo. Yes, it is Salo heading for the pit lane.
And there's the battle going on at the starboard. Oh, and Salo, of course, he is able to brake very much later, but must slow down to 80 kilometers per hour into the pit lane. If he doesn't, that will be a penalty. He brings the Toyota in, jacks go up. No tyres, no change of tyres.
Just the rear tyres, John. They're changing the rear tyres, but not the front. So as Montoya did just a little while ago, only changing the rear tyres and not the fronts. The Ferrari team now preparing for one of their cars to come in. Now here's our race leader, Barrichello, lap number 25 we're on, and it's surely Barrichello that will be coming into the pits. It is Barrichello from the race lead, diving into the pit lane now. That leaves Michael Schumacher up front, with Montoya chasing in second, Kimi Räikkönen still in third place. And as expected, Barrichello started this race relatively light and now needs to put some fuel on board.
Yes, he's completed 26 laps. This is a two-stop strategy. I don't believe that if Ferrari wanted to change that strategy, they could put sufficient fuel into that car. There's still a long way to go. A 70-lap Grand Prix. Again, look, all that leaf litter. I alluded to that before this race started. I mentioned it all the way through the opening laps. And there with the Ferrari, how much it came out, certainly enough to see rise of temperatures on any of these cars on track right now.
And look, he's got right out behind Coulthard there, so that puts him in 6th place. It will be 6th place by the time they come back around, but he is behind David Coulthard and ahead of Nick Heidfeld in the Sauber. This could be quite a battle. Coulthard is not going to let the Ferrari past at all easily. Just remember how well he did it in Monaco with Michael Schumacher chasing him.
Well, there we see. Still, this is the reason why that pit stop was slow. They really were concerned about temperatures on the Ferrari, spending, what, 5... Rubens is going mad in the cockpit, but in that first sector, on this new set of tyres, coming out of the pit lane included, he made the fastest sector time. Now the team clear up all that leaf litter. This is being dropped on the track on the entry into turns 8 and 9. Lots and lots of it are falling. It was almost like a snow, and everybody will have to watch water temperature, because...
And we're just having a quick look in the pits as well. Mika Salo has been brought back into the pits, and he has a problem around the front of the car. What a shame. The Finn has been driving superbly well this afternoon in the Toyota. They've changed the fronts, and they've put him back. He is coming back out now, so Salo is rejoining as we look at the battles going on. Look at this, Barrichello versus Coulthard. Rubens Barrichello in the Ferrari looked to have a run going, but couldn't quite get alongside Coulthard.
Well, he's certainly got the benefit of much fresher tyres. He should be able to use that, but there's about 2 places on the track where it will be really possible. All Rubens can do is stick to the rear of the McLaren, not overrun the McLaren, not put himself into the zone where he loses momentum. He's just got to make that judgment, and right now he's probably about as good as it gets. Now, out of the exit of this turn 6 and 7, he may have thought about it, but no, he's too far behind. He's got to close up going into 8 and 9 and try a move on David Coulthard as they then come down into 10. That's the hairpin bend at the far end of the circuit.
So the battle between, and they're a little bit sideways for both there, the battle between two experienced campaigners driving for 2 of the top teams in Formula 1. McLaren not having one of their best
Coulthard
years.
Locked up, the right front locked up, but Barrichello didn't. He overran the corner himself. He couldn't gain any advantage.
Well, let's see whether Coulthard can maintain that position, and despite the threat of the man who's been fastest so far here today, Barrichello, fastest lap set on lap number 21, remember. Across the line to complete another lap. 28 laps have now been completed. Michael Schumacher still leading this race, but Rubens Barrichello trying to keep the pressure on David Coulthard. As we saw some problems for Mika Salo a moment ago, he is back out on the track now.
But Rubens Barrichello, his last lap, lap 28, for some reason was 0.6 of a second slower than that of David Coulthard, the man he's chasing. Now, Barrichello has got more fuel on board, but he's got the benefit of fresh tyres. And I would have thought that Barrichello ought to have been able, with the advantage of horsepower that Ferrari have, to have lined himself up and got past David Coulthard pretty quickly. But the Ferrari engineers working at their refueling rig. Now it looks as if a problem. That's unusual. Those rigs are mandatory. They're the same throughout the teams. They're provided by the FIA, the governing body in motorsport. Look at that oscillation on Michael's right front wheel.
Yes.
Now that leads you to think, have Ferrari had a problem with the refueling rig, and has the required amount of fuel that they measure by time gone into his car?
or not? Well, we will no doubt find out as Barrichello continues around on this lap. 6th position for him at the moment. Michael Schumacher lapping very quickly still, 1 minute 16.4, and his lead now up to 15.7 seconds over the Williams BMW of Juan Pablo Montoya, who has made that one stop. Kimi Räikkönen still runs 3rd for McLaren. Ralf Schumacher 4th, Coulthard 5th, Barrichello 6th. Heidfeld in the Sauber is 7th, Fisichella 8th, Trulli 9th, Button now back into 10th place after Salo made his stop. Then it's Massa, Panis, Eddie Irvine 13th in the Jaguar. And then Alan McNish in the 2nd of the Toyota. He runs 14th ahead of Frentzen, Mark Webber, Takuma Sato, Alex Young and Mika Salo, who has made 2 pit stops, still in the race, as is De La Rosa. Just 2 retirements in this race, Enrique Bernoldi and Jacques Villeneuve.
And right now on lap 30, Rubens Barrichello unable to make any further impression on David Coulthard. Coulthard, in fact, still running quicker by about half a second a lap. Remember, Coulthard has yet to make a stop. He's on a one-stop strategy, and the Michelin tyres take about 8 laps, 10 laps to settle down into the optimum performance. Coulthard able to use those tyres to maximum effect, as we see Räikkönen and Ralf Schumacher.
Car number 24 is Mika Salo, and there's, as you can see there, the race stewards are looking into an incident involving Mika Salo's car. Now, didn't really see what that was all about, but obviously something questionable. Just saw flashing through the picture Räikkönen and Ralf Schumacher. There's Barrichello, still battling along in 6th place, having made a stop. Now here's Ralf Schumacher again. He's still got that car of Kimi Räikkönen just a few car lengths ahead of him, but he just cannot seem to find a way past.
Well, that's a frustration for a driver. You get caught behind a car which potentially is slower in an overall lap than your car, but you just can't get close enough where it counts to try and make a pass. Ralph's had a couple of goes, but never been able to really make the job stick.
Meanwhile, Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in the pits, let me tell you. So Frentzen has come in, and it's a slow stop for Frentzen, so he's obviously having some sort of problem, perhaps with the fuel. Frentzen finally is leaving the pit lane as we ride on board here with Ralf Schumacher.
Well, this is this long drag all the way back down to the final 2 corners before we come to start-finish line. And Eddie, Pedro de la Rosa, I think that was.
No, well,
it is Eddie.
We'll look as though, we'll see if we can hear on the radio.
It was de la Rosa, I'm sorry, I was right the first time. It is Pedro de la Rosa. He's gone back out. He was in the pits for quite a long time here, back out. Of course, he had that incident in the opening laps into turns 14. Ross Brawn, that computer he calls a brain. Well, there's the battle. Let's go back to this battle.
This is great, isn't it? Looking from behind the front wing of Ralf Schumacher. Look how close he's getting to the rear wing of Kimi Räikkönen. Now, Räikkönen made a little mistake earlier, but I'm sure that Ralf is just keeping the pressure on, hoping for another mistake.
But it looks to me like Pedro de la Rosa is stopped off track at this point. So there should be a yellow, there it is, yellow flags for Pedro de la Rosa.
So car number 24, that is Mika Salo, was speeding in the pit lane. There in the background, you just saw De La Rosa pulling off to the side of the track. Let's ride with Ralf Schumacher again. That engine singing well, isn't it? And Räikkönen just making a little lock up there.
Now's your chance, Ralf Schumacher. But again, it's difficult from this camera position to see whether he missed judgment. We watch Mika Salo. He's going to have to do a drive-through penalty at the end of this lap.
So that's a great shame for the Finn. He had a great run going in the early laps here, moving up from 18th place to 10th, but I'm afraid that's all gone away now as Räikkönen continues to control this battle for 3rd position. Flashes past the pit signals that the teams are giving. A little bit of a lock-up into the first corner, but keeps it tidy.
Yes, we've seen him do that quite a lot over the last 8 laps, really, since that safety car was taken off track. Räikkönen has been dragging that left front on a couple of corners. The brake dust seems to have gone away, but we're still getting minor lockups.
It's going over 80. If I put the throttle down, it's going 81.
So it's obviously a problem for Salo. Some sort of technical problem with the speed limiter by the sound of it. And that is really tough news for him. Now, this was a moment ago. Ralf Schumacher actually did cut through the chicane. He was already behind Räikkönen, didn't gain any advantage. He got very close under braking, decided to sort of bail out, back off a little bit, and Räikkönen maintained the edge as the Williams pit crew just waits nervously to see what the next development will be. Remember, Ralf Schumacher has not yet stopped. but Montoya has made one.
Okay. Just got one, had some debris.
And once again, the team talking about clearing out those radiator side pods of the leaf litter and hoping that they can get them cleaned out safely. Engine temperatures will be monitored from the pit garages, remember, so the team have a very close idea if they're in trouble.
Michael Schumacher has got to drive for win here because he's got a number of laps before he'll make his one and only stop of the day. He needs something in the region of about 25, maybe 26 seconds advantage over Montoya in second place. Currently that's just under 20 at 19.5 seconds. He needs another 5 to 6 seconds to give him that zone to be able to come in, make his one stop for the afternoon, get back out and still retain the lead.
Well, you have to say he's putting in the lap times, isn't he? Low 1:16. This is looking like another exemplary Michael Schumacher performance across the speed trap. 332 kilometers per hour with a tow. Takuma Sato has the best speed so far, and 337 kilometers per hour. That just shows you when you're following other cars and perhaps braking that little bit later into the last chicane. Sato, the fastest that we've seen so far this weekend. So that's about 210 miles an hour at the fastest point on the circuit. And Michael Schumacher now heading on around. His gap to Montoya, some 20.3 seconds. Montoya having just gone across the line, and nearly a second a lap advantage here for Michael Schumacher.
Well, this is classic from the 4 times world champion. And this is what marks him out as being the most remarkable driver of his generation and could go on to be the greatest Grand Prix driver in the history of the sport. He understands what he has to do, the team. And Ross Brawn is the man that really controls what goes on the racetrack. Ross is, without doubt, the smartest guy on the pit lane, but he's got the best material on the track to deal with, and that's Michael Schumacher.
We're approaching the half-distance mark in this race, and Michael Schumacher is looking composed, comfortable and controlled up front at the moment, pushing the pace, determined to open up sufficient advantage over the Williams of Juan Pablo Montoya. Look how neat and tidy he is as he comes out of that last corner. That has claimed him in the past, but today he is determined to stay in front. Here's the battle between Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher, still raging. It's still over third position.
But the difference between Michael Schumacher and Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher is that Michael's got clear air ahead of him. He's got a rhythm going. He's running in the low 1-minute 16s. The rest of the field are doing low 17s for Montoya. Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher about the same sort of pace, ebbs and flows lap to lap. Ralf again getting closer to the rear of the McLaren Mercedes-Benz. Raikkonen has driven really good race this afternoon under pressure. Oh, Ralf, car wobbles one way then the other way, under braking into turn 2. But I'm very impressed with what Raikkonen's done here this afternoon.
Yes, the 22-year-old, only in his second season of Grand Prix racing. Stepping into the shoes of Mika Häkkinen at McLaren Mercedes. Häkkinen, of course, not racing this season. The former world champion deciding soon whether he will make a return to Formula One. And at the moment, Raikkonen upholding his honour, if you like, with a great drive here. That little slip-up that allowed Montoya through, but other than that, he's driven perfectly.
The man who must be the most upset this afternoon presently is Rubens Barrichello. We haven't seen him for a while, but Barrichello is still caught behind David Coulthard. The strategy that Ferrari for Barrichello have enacted this afternoon has not worked, and Barrichello still, what now, 2.4 seconds behind David Coulthard. Now Coulthard will have to come in once. Barrichello, we believe, will have to come in a second time, and well, what could have been a great strategy for Barrichello and Ferrari currently looks like it isn't going to come together.
Across the lines, complete another lap. 36 laps completed by the race leader, and now also by Kimi Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher. Let's just watch him out of the first corner. The automatic gear change doing the work of the driver. A little puff of smoke, probably just a little lock up on the tyres, nothing too major. Now we're seeing Jenson Button making a pit stop here. Button coming in from what was 10th position. His teammate Jarno Trulli in the other Renault still in 9th place. And we haven't lost many cars from this race yet, which is a surprise. The average number of finishes over the last 6 years has been only 11. But so far we've only seen 3 cars go out of this race. on that speed limit button, 50 miles an hour until he gets over the line. Release the button, off you go. And this new pit lane exit certainly seems to be working well. Joining here just as Michael Schumacher comes around, and Button glances over his right shoulder, sees the Ferrari, makes sure that he doesn't challenge, and Schumacher goes through safely.
And I tell you, if he did challenge, Michael would have just ignored him. He is on a run right now. He's just gone into the 1 minute 15. It's the fastest car on the circuit by a huge margin, a 1:59.71. 23.9 seconds advantage now over Juan Pablo Montoya. So Ferrari mechanics are, there we see the team beginning to process. There are the fueling rigs, the refueling rigs. They will bring out the wheels, tires. And he's looked down in the starboard pit. There's been a huge battle going on between Giancarlo Fisichella in 8th, and here he comes, Nick Heidfeld in 7th place. Heidfeld into the pit. Fisichella now inherits that 7th place. But watch for Michael Schumacher, because we expect him. He's through the second sector. He's now making his way down that long back straight, back towards start-finish line. There, Ferrari are prepared for Michael Schumacher. He's coming in at the end of this lap.
And it's going to be pretty close, and that's not what he wants. Alex Young just ahead of him. It's probably not ideal, although I don't think he's been held up too much as he makes his way down to the far end of the pit lane. Now we're watching for Montoya. Montoya's at the hairpin at the moment. There he is, in fact, coming down the long straight which heads towards the pit. But is Michael Schumacher going to be able to get out ahead of him? Clearing out those side pods again. The tyres changed. All 4 tyres on the Bridgestone tired cars are being changed. Lots of that leaf litter to get rid of, and a lot of fuel to put on board.
For 11.4 seconds.
And Montoya comes across the line ahead of Michael Schumacher. So Montoya retakes the lead here.
And Alex Young also coming into play. Michael Schumacher just got out of the pit lane ahead of Alex Young, but this gaggle of cars directly behind. But Raikkonen, Ralf Schumacher, David Coulthard, he was lucky to get out ahead of those 3 cars.
On board with Kimi Raikkonen, hurling it over the curves once again. There's Michael Schumacher, Frentzen, the lapped car, just behind it still Raikkonen, Ralf Schumacher. There is David Coulthard, and Michael Schumacher, as you see now, has been refueled to the end of the race. The single stop going for Michael Schumacher, but Barrichello, the other Ferrari, will surely have to make another stop soon. There is Kimi Raikkonen, just still fending off Ralf Schumacher. Ralf trying to make use of the traffic here.
Yes, but Heinz-Harald Frentzen and the Arrows did a very good job. He saw this battle coming. He stayed to the right of track and let those 3 cars go through. And maybe Ralf Schumacher feels, well, I've got a slight opportunity. Raikkonen, not quite as experienced, might try to take a chance into turn 10.
Now let's take a look what was going on here. This was Heidfeld coming in, and Fisichella made a big miss.
Do you know what he did? He was watching the braking zone of Heidfeld. He didn't realise that Heidfeld was coming in, and he couldn't believe how late Heidfeld was on the brakes. He then had to brake from too deep, got the car out of shape. Fortunately, the runoff area is there to enable him to recover.
Interestingly, Fisichella's going quickly now. He is putting in some personal bests as he looks towards his one and only pit stop. That battle between Jordan, Renault and Sauber is going to be fiercely fought throughout this race, and that's going to come down to the wire, I think. But we have to wait and see when Trulli and Fisichella make their pit stops fairly soon. Ralf Schumacher just coming still, following Kimi Raikkonen, and we're still waiting for these 2 to make their stops, of course. Neither Kimi Raikkonen nor Ralf Schumacher have made their pit stops, and that's going to be a huge battle between the teams once they do come in.
And the pace of Giancarlo Fisichella, he's only 8.3 seconds behind Rubens Barrichello and the Ferrari, but Barrichello currently last of the point scorers in 6th place, and purely on pace I would be surprised if Fisichella and Jordan can match Barrichello and Ferrari.
Well, let's just think about this for a moment. Here is Michael Schumacher, now finds himself down in 2nd position. Oh, big splat on the camera lens. Our race leader is Juan Pablo Montoya. There he is, going through the shot. Now it's Michael Schumacher. You can see how far ahead he is of Raikkonen and Ralf Schumacher, but those 2 have not yet stopped. Now, they could probably go another 10 laps or so, perhaps. We saw Ralf Schumacher go to lap 51 last year. We're on lap 40 at the moment before he made his stop. So watch to see just how far he can go. And what about Montoya? Will Montoya have to stop again, having made that early stop in this race? They put a lot of fuel on board, but surely Montoya, it just depends how much fuel he started the race with. I would think that he may well have to stop again anyway. Montoya currently, though, leading by 3.9 seconds over Michael Schumacher. So they flash through, back under the bridge, over the bumps there. Mark Webber just in shot. He's been lapped, but he's running in 16th.
And Kimi Räikkönen, this is his 41st lap, puts in his fastest first sector. So on a set of tyres that has done, well, just over 40 and a half laps, still got life in them, enough to be able to give him his personal best and keep Ralf Schumacher behind.
Eddie Irvine in the pits looks frustrated. There's a lot of work going on, and he looks fuming. He's furious. I don't know what's happened. He lights it up as he gets away, but Eddie Irvine was not happy.
Well, they were working around the left-hand side of the car. They see the hand brace screwing something back down, so they had to do work on that. Eddie couldn't do anything about it, but every fraction of a second you're sitting in the pits is frustration.
May have been the fuel flap perhaps didn't open properly, and they were trying to get that open up. As we look at Kimi Räikkönen coming through, look at Ralf so close into those first couple of corners, as Michael Schumacher is still in second place. It's Juan Pablo Montoya who leads, but can he hold on to it? Well, looking down at Rubens Barrichello, he's refueled for the remainder of the race as well, with his stop had been made, and we're waiting now for a Williams pit stop. So Olivier Panis is in the pits, currently dropping down the order as he makes his one and only stop, coming in from 9th place. He comes back out. We're still waiting to see Fisichella and Trulli make their stops. We're still waiting, of course, for Räikkönen, Ralf Schumacher and David Coulthard to stop. Now Williams waiting for one of their cars. Presumably this will be Ralf Schumacher. Montoya continues on round, maintaining the advantage over Michael Schumacher at the moment. Montoya lapping faster, and here comes Ralf. So Ralf Schumacher choosing this moment to come in for his one and only stop.
Well, again, the team will be as quick as they can in servicing Ralf Schumacher. They need to dive into those air intakes on either side of the driver to ensure that all the leaf that's been on the track is cleared.
So again, it's just the rear tyres that are being changed. Notice how, despite the soft compound of tyre that's being used, the front tyres remain the same, and they have a fuel rig problem. They've changed the fuel rig, John, and that's a disaster for Ralf Schumacher.
Yes, we could hear that something went wrong on the refueling. This has been a problem with the rigs. And we saw that with Ralf Schumacher absolutely furious.
He's got to watch the lollipop. He's got to watch the lollipop.
Right, stop the step for one.
Now,
not enough fuel's gone in, so I need to know that it's possible to stop again.
Yes, well,
we heard it. Not enough fuel. You could hear it on the radio.
I'll get back to you.
And Eddie Irvine, oh, well, we saw he had problems in the pits. It's all over once again, and that's both Jaguars out. McNish stalls.
Second time this year, McNish has stalled the car on a refueling pit stop.
Trying to listen in.
The car with the wheel spinning.
The problem sounds like it may be clutch related. They aren't able to let the clutch bite as normal. They had to let it jack up, then spin the wheels.
Nothing was happening, wasn't going to gear. Then it went up to 5th.
So obviously it's a problem, a technical problem. Alan's going to have to try and deal with that. Apparently the Sauber of Heidfeld has picked up a penalty as well. This was when Ralf stopped. Now look, the fuel hose went in. Let's see, nothing's happening. The refueler shaking his head. They go back. Very quick decision there to try and get the other refueling rig. But watch Ralf and when he decides to go, because they put the hose in. Wait, Ralph's shaking his head. We don't quite see when they get to go because we're watching Irvine pulling off at the side of the track.
Yes, that's an engine failure of some description on the left-hand side of the V10 Jaguar engine. Eddie, another disappointing weekend here, hoping to finish the race. And by finishing, you do stand a chance to finish in the points. But so far, the retirement rate has actually been relatively low for this Grand Prix. Canadian Grand Prix, traditionally a tough Grand Prix mechanically for every team.
So, Montoya, race leader, a 1 minute 16.483 on that last lap. A very rapid set of laps coming up here from Montoya, about to complete his 44th lap. Michael Schumacher runs in second place, some 6.8 seconds behind this man, Juan Pablo Montoya. Kimi Räikkönen still going in third, and in fact Räikkönen is right on the tail of the Ferrari of Schumacher, but Räikkönen still has not stopped. Ralf Schumacher has made his stop, but it looks they had a real problem, as we saw, with that refueling rig, and they may well have to get Ralf back in, and also will Montoya have to stop again?
Just fuel.
Just fuel.
Please confirm, come in.
listening to the radio from Williams.
10 seconds, everyone, about 10 seconds.
And here comes Ralph to make another stop, I'm afraid. It should have been a single stop race for him, but the problems with the fuel rig mean he comes back in. And this is such a disappointment for the man who won here last year. It's all gone against him this time.
Yes, and partly has went wrong with him from the very start of this race. He didn't get past Kimi Raikkonen at the start. And he's really just battled against the odds. This time the fuel goes in. Watch the lollipop. That's the man standing in front of Ralf Schumacher, who, when he lifts that, we call it a lollipop. Only then can Ralf Schumacher go out. The team said he went too soon on his original pit stop. Oh, bodywork there. Something flicked off the Williams. He got a bit loose as he came out of the pits.
Here comes Raikkonen.
Third place Raikkonen into the pits.
So from third, and it's been a hard-fought third throughout this race so far. Kimi Raikkonen. Now, can he get a finish in? He's only finished once this year. That was in Australia, where he was also third. But otherwise than that, he hasn't had a finish. Mechanical woes have put him out virtually every time, and last time it was Barrichello hitting him. Now, they get the tyres on, they send him back out down the pit lane. Good clean stop, this one, and of course he won't be under threat from Ralf Schumacher anymore, because Ralf has had his problems. So Kimi Raikkonen rejoins the track, and that's a good stop from the McLaren crew. Fisichella at last making his one and only stop, and it's really only now David Coulthard that we have not seen make a pit stop. Of the front runners, Coulthard now up to third, hasn't made his stop yet.
And Giancarlo Fisichella going to come back out on track. Oh, this is what I saw. Ralf Schumacher, he clipped. Now, there was debris somewhere there. You see the debris being clipped. Not a problem. Wasn't from Schumacher's car. But Fisichella and Jordan, good job. I believe that Fisichella got back out in that 6th place ahead of Jarno Trulli. The gap now down to 6.2 seconds, but good strategy, good teamwork from the Jordan team.
24 laps remain in this 70-lap Canadian Grand Prix. There is the race leader, the Colombian Juan Pablo Montoya, yet to win a Grand Prix this season. He won last year. He's had a number of pole positions, but he has not had a Grand Prix victory yet this season. And at the moment, his advantage over Michael Schumacher just about 9 seconds. But will he have to come in for a bit more fuel in the latter part of this race? He made a very early stop, remember, when the safety car came out. They did put a lot of fuel on, but surely he was running with a fairly light car at that time. He's trying to pull away from Michael Schumacher in second position as the Williams crew try and attend to that refueling rig that they had the problem with.
And we saw earlier in this race, we saw Ferrari also looking at their fuel rig as if there was a problem. And we've known that these rigs have given problems in the past. Arrows lost potential points in Monaco Grand Prix 2 weeks ago because one of their rigs failed to fill the car with the required amount of fuel.
These rigs delivering fuel at the rate of 12.5 litres per second. So if you were filling up a normal road car, it would take you about 4.5 seconds to fill up a tank on a road car. That's how much fuel is going in. It's very quickly indeed when it works. Unfortunately for Ralph, it didn't work. Here comes Montoya just lapping some of the slower cars.
Olivier Panis doing again a superb job, keeping an eye on the mirrors. Right now running in 10th place. Race leader comes through and is able to stretch. He needs to push as hard as he can. David Coulthard still in third place, never stopped. About to very shortly, I suspect. Once again doing lap after lap, quicker.
Well, let's see what he can achieve here. Coulthard currently in third place, yes, and a 1 minute 16.5, just a fraction off the pace that Montoya is setting up front. But I don't think Coulthard's going to be able to make it back-to-back victories from Monaco. After that successful run there, he always knew it would be a tougher task in Canada.
Well, the point that Coulthard would be... Oh, and there you see McNish has lost it out of turn 4.
McNish has crashed the Toyota driver. This could bring the safety car back out again, of course. And it looks...
I can't get the fucking thing into gear.
Well, Alan's having a problem getting the car into gear. He may have the engine running. We heard him say he had problems with the gearbox after his pit stop.
Trying to get it into gear, and nothing's happening. And obviously, I think he might have just kept it off the wall.
I can't get the gear.
And he's frustrated. The engine's still running, of course, but he just cannot get the thing into gear, and he can't get out of the way. And he's being told... Being told to turn it off and let the corner workers and the marshals deal with that. and they are managing to pull it out of the way, so that's good news, but a great shame for Alan McNish.
But also the principal thing of this is that the marshals have got the car into relative safety. We have not had to deploy the safety car, which once again would have thrown a real joker into this race.
So the leaders come through. The gap between Montoya and Schumacher up to 10.9 seconds, and McLaren are now prepared for Coulthard's stop. Coulthard running in third place. He's currently 11.6 seconds off the race lead and only a fraction behind Michael Schumacher, but this will drop him down.
Yes, but it may not drop him behind. It may drop him behind Rubens Barrichello, but it may if he's lucky. There's the spin we saw. He did keep it off the wall. Well done, McNish, but we think probably a gearbox problem led him to go into that spin. But for David Coulthard, he wants to get in and out ahead of his teammate Kimi Raikkonen. Coulthard had been locked in a battle all the way back down through the field while Raikkonen was battling with Ralf Schumacher for third, fourth or fifth positions.
Now watch Coulthard, here he comes into the pits. This is his one and only stop. He's made it all the way to lap number 49. In fact, lap 50 as he crosses the line in the pit lane here, almost as far as Ralf Schumacher went last year before making his stops. A big fuel tank on the McLaren allows him to go this far.
Raikkonen is on that back straight. He's coming down it. He's coming to about half distance. Coulthard fresh, wiping the visor. He's still got rev ups. There's Kimi Raikkonen. David Coulthard still stationary in the pits. You want to be very tight. The advantage that Coulthard has is he's down this end of the pitch, but of course now Raikkonen's got the run, but it's the exit of the pits into turn 2. Can Coulthard do it? No, he's not. It's going to be very... Yes, he has! Great teamwork by McLaren there. Two cars rejoined, but Raikkonen's got the momentum, but Coulthard's got his dander up.
Wow, this is quite a battle in prospect, but Raikkonen knows it's his teammate. He can't take too many risks, and the preheated tyres used by these boys certainly helping Coulthard there. If he'd been on cold tyres, he'd have had no chance.
There was 24 seconds for the team to play with to get Coulthard out before Raikkonen would be right on his case, and they did it with about 23.9 seconds.
Looking back, that's a view that David Coulthard can glance in his mirror, and relief for him as he's moved ahead of his teammate Kimi Raikkonen, who's driven so well, but Coulthard taking the advantage with a later stop there. Adrian Newey, technical director at McLaren, seeing both cars still running in the top 6, and that hasn't happened too often this year.
In the meantime, Juan Pablo Montoya, not only is he in the lead of this race, he's just given us another fastest race lap at a 1:15.960, and he's got to push. Blue flag out, that was for Heinz-Harald Frentzen, that's not a problem. So Juan Pablo Montoya really having to get his head down and do some serious work at this part of the race. 2/3 of the way through. Michael Schumacher 12 seconds behind him, and it'll take a lot longer than 12.7 seconds to come in, refuel and get back out. He needs at least 18 to 20 seconds to be secure of making a very quick splash and dash and being in the lead.
Yes, and what that would do, John, with the way that Barrichello's going, is it would actually likely drop him down to third place. Here we are, we're ready for Montoya to come in. We'll try and listen up on that team radio as he makes his way into pits.
And the team are laying out rear tyres only from what we saw, that brief glimpse. So Montoya comes in, Michael Schumacher is just coming out of the hairpin bend. He's now, there we see Schumacher. That was about a relative position, maybe, in terms of Raikkonen and Coulthard, I think.
And look where Barrichello is.
Yes, Barrichello is right on his case. He's going to lose certainly the first 2 positions. He could conceivably end up going 4th.
Fuel hose gets out, looks as though that was clean, unlike Ralf Schumacher's. Now he joins, he will rejoin in third place behind the 2 Ferraris, but he will come out ahead of David Coulthard, who hasn't come through the final corner yet.
No, Coulthard's still on that return straight to pits. So Juan Pablo Montoya on that 2-stop strategy. Big gamble. Now it's a battle to the checkered flag with Ferraris 1 and 2. And the strategy that Ferrari had for Barrichello with a very light load initially to sprint ahead and try and draw Williams into battle. So now we see...
Yes, but Barrichello may have to stop again, of course. He only has made that 1 stop so far, so that might well bring Montoya back into second place.
Indeed, you're right, it will.
So Michael Schumacher, the question is how much pace has Montoya got now, because he's not that far behind the Ferraris, but the Ferraris have been so quick. It's all about how quickly he can lap in the latter stages of this race, and just going a little wide, that was Rubens Barrichello trying to deal with the 2 Saubers.
Well, Montoya right now is 7.6 seconds behind race leader. On his lap prior to coming into the pits for fresh rubber and fuel, he set a new fastest race lap. But Michael Schumacher in control, in command. and traffic now building up. Watch for, we can't quite see Montoya. There he comes out now from turn 15. He's got Felipe Massa, Jenson Button, Takuma Sato. He's past Sato. Now he's just got to get past.
Heidfeld's in for his penalty. Again. Yeah, he's in for a penalty here. He's having a bit of a horrible afternoon. 10 seconds stop and go. And when he's given the signal, off he goes again. So that's dropped him well out of the top 10. And just to tell you that with all the action, that we've seen in that midfield battle, Giancarlo Fisichella in the Jordan has moved up to 6th place now because of Heidfeld's problems. Fisichella now 6th, Trulli is 7th. Ralf Schumacher, of course, with his extra pit stop that he had to make, is now 8th. Panis is 9th and Massa 10th. So Fisichella looking to try and score yet another point for Jordan Honda after having points in the last 2 Grand Prix, at the A1 ring and in Monaco.
And that opening lap for Juan Pablo Montoya when he rejoined race. He's now lost a little bit of further time. He's now 8.5 seconds behind race leader Michael Schumacher. We wait to see when they come across the line at the end of lap 53. That may have stabilised. Traffic, of course, right now, a big feature for these leading 3 cars.
The live super slow-mo, watching the car as it goes over the curbs. You can see how the tyres oscillate, these grooved dry weather tyres that are used in Formula One in an attempt to slow cornering speeds, but with the compounds improving every year, they're now lapping very much faster than the days when they had slick tyres around this same racetrack.
Then that gap that was 8.5 seconds is down again to just over 7 at 7.2 seconds. Now traffic may have come into that as the 2 Ferraris close up, but of course Rubens Barrichello, we believe, will be back into the pits for a final splash and dash. And Barrichello anxious. In fact, I think Barrichello may go ahead of Michael Schumacher. He may be potentially capable of running quicker than the race leader to enable him to get as much advantage to ensure a Ferrari 1st and 2nd place. But there it is, they're coming in now.
Yeah, so he won't get held up behind his teammate for long, but of course this will drop him back behind Montoya. Now, will it drop him back into the clutches of Coulthard? That's going to be the interesting battle.
Well, I think Coulthard right now it'll be about 17 seconds between Coulthard and Barrichello when he comes off. So it's going to be very tight. It'll be a short stop for Ferrari.
Barrichello comes in then, and we'll watch to see what happens. There, Schumacher. That's lap number 54 completed. 16 laps to go here. Montoya will move up into 2nd place. The gap was 7.3. It's down to 6.1. Montoya definitely catching the Ferrari, but there's traffic to deal with. And here's Barrichello.
And Felipe Massa, Olivia Panis, those are the 2 cars that are ahead now. I suspect that Panis has been very good all day. He'll be no trouble.
Here's the battle, John. David Coulthard coming.
No, he's through. He's through.
Yep, he's through, but then remember, there's the shortcut here, but he will be in front. And Barrichello rejoining just behind the McLaren.
It was a close call, but it was always going to be advantage to David Coulthard. Ferrari can only do so much in a certain amount of time. They've got to get the fuel in. They've got to check for the air intakes for leaf litter, and that stop needed a second less. In that case, it would have been Barrichello in 3rd place, not David Coulthard.
Well, things settling down, but what's going to happen up front between the 2 race leaders, Michael Schumacher and Montoya, as Montoya tries to close up the gap? This was as Barrichello came into the pits, and we just had a quick view of Michael Schumacher bouncing his way over the curbs. And
but he got very, very wide on the exit. You can see the look on his head and the angle of his head and his face. He knew that he got it wrong going in, and he's thinking that wall is going to get pretty close. I've got to get the car off the wall. He's on the dirty part of the line of this. Oh, and I mean, you could barely get your hand down between the wheel and the wall.
Wow, he did well to keep that off the barrier. He hit that wall the other day in practice and did some damage to the car, and he knows he's under pressure, although he's just opened the gap up again because Montoya was fighting his way through traffic, had a slower lap that time.
Further on the field, Kimi Raikkonen's running in the 1:20s, where the rest of the field are in either high 16s, low 17s, or even in the 18s. But behind him, Giancarlo Fisichella in the Jordan Honda. He's 15 seconds away, but he's running about 2, maybe 2.5 seconds a lap quicker. 15 laps to go. He ought to be able to catch him and pass him without too much difficulty.
So we'll keep an eye on that gap as well as the lap times become crucial. Riding with Michael Schumacher. Look at the grandstands here around the hairpin. Watching their man at work. The Ferrari fans certainly enjoying this display. 55 laps, just 15 laps to go in the Canadian Grand Prix. Again, very high speeds. His best so far, 337 kilometers per hour, 333 on that occasion without the benefit of a tow. Oh, and smoke.
That's an engine failure. Montoya's out. That is an engine failure. That is not brakes. Wait for it. Here it comes. Here she goes. It's finished. He's out of the race. Juan Pablo Montoya's challenge for victory in Canada ends with an engine failure, and he pulls in at pit lane exit. Be careful, nobody's coming out. Fortunately not. He just drives across that pit lane onto grass, and there the look of resignation on the face of the Williams BMW team, and their possibility of victory has gone. Ralf Schumacher really in no position to do anything, running in 8th place. Huge disappointment for Williams as a team. No points right now, and the prospect of points at the end of lap 70 is no better.
Well, there's still a rueful smile on the faces of the Williams guys, but they must be bitterly disappointed with that. Montoya drove superbly here today. They took advantage of that early safety car period, and he was certainly chasing. That was the moment the smoke started to come, and it was on its way out.
Ben, that to me was a heat-related problem. We know that these engines run very, very high temperatures, but they have to run at stable temperatures. We've seen a lot of leaf litter getting into the air intakes. If that temperature goes up at a part of the race, you will never recover. The only thing you can do is slow down, and that's not what motor racing is about. And the consequences are an engine failure, in my view, certainly in part caused by over hot oil and water temperatures.
For the second race in succession, Montoya suffers a BMW engine failure after having had one of the most reliable engines in Formula One so far this year. But that's the way it goes in Formula One. Everything is on the limit, and as you say, John, with debris getting in the side pods, perhaps affecting the temperatures as well. It's a long walk back up the pit lane for Montoya. A disappointing occasion here in Canada again. Last year he crashed out, and he said it was the worst moment of his season. This year, well, he drove superbly well, but unfortunately mechanical gremlins letting him down.
And looking at the situation just in the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari on 72 points and Williams on 54. Well, the prospect of Williams gaining any points right now with Ralf Schumacher. He's in 8th place, 2.8 seconds behind Jarno Trulli in 7th, and Trulli some 5.3 seconds behind. Montoya versus Giancarlo Fisichella. So Ralf Schumacher will go up to 7th place, in fact, due to Montoya's retirement. But it'll be a very, very disappointing race.
Lovely reception for Montoya as he walks back up the pit lane. Well liked in North America after his time as a kart champion and Indy 500 winner, and has a huge amount of support here. Winner in Canada in the past in Vancouver, but it's not to be on this occasion in Montreal, I'm afraid, as we now take a look at the battle between Jarno Trulli and Ralf Schumacher, and this is certainly hotting up to be quite a close battle as well. The onboard view with Ralf Schumacher here as he continues to chase after Jarno Trulli. This is the battle for 7th place, but he has caught him very quickly over the last couple of laps. Ralf trying to move up the order and get back into the points and get one Williams in the points, having seen Montoya break down just a moment ago and go out of the running.
Yes, Ralf Schumacher was nowhere near the rear of Jarno Trulli a couple of laps ago, and that must indicate a problem for the Renault. And all of a sudden, Ralf Schumacher, with prospect in mind, we'll still see Montoya being scored as the 6th, but in fact, in reality, it is now Jarno Trulli who is 6th, Ralf Schumacher 7th. It is now down to 0.3 of a second going across the line. Ralf Schumacher will get past Jarno Trulli. His Renault must have a problem. And then it is Giancarlo Fisichella running in 5th place for Jordan. Let's say 6.5 seconds now ahead of Ralf Schumacher.
There you could see Ralf hurtling over the curbs as he tries to make up some more ground. Montoya's made it back to the Williams pit. Well, I mean, what can you say to the guy? He drove his heart out today. It fell well for him in that first safety car period, but at the end of the day, an engine failure means for the second race in succession, a non-finish.
Well, Schumacher ran down Jarno Trulli very, very quickly, and suddenly Trulli's picked up the pace again. Ralf Schumacher, we thought, was going to run past Jarno Trulli's Renault without any difficulty at all. He's now been stuck a lap behind him. He's got to use his power advantage from this point down to those final 2 corners. but again, the traction off the corner of the Renault, extremely good.
Our race leader is Michael Schumacher. His advantage is now 18.2 seconds. Because we've lost Montoya, it brings Coulthard up into second place, but Coulthard has Barrichello breathing down his neck. The gap as they went across the line last time was just half a second. Barrichello tracing, trying to get a Ferrari 1-2 here today and make it another perfect score in the Constructors' Championship for the Italian team. Michael Schumacher driving superbly once more, looking for his 5th victory here in Canada and his 6th win of the season. And this is the battle between Coulthard and Barrichello.
And we've got Takuma Sato in the Jordan, getting the blue flag, getting the blue light on his dash. He must pull out of the way. He's on the racing line. He actually should. Now Barrichello pulls out, gets the slipstream, gets past David Coulthard, and Coulthard outbreaks Barrichello, and he goes across. Now this could be seen to be advantage, unfair advantage to David Coulthard. Finger up for David Coulthard from Rubens Barrichello. He will not be happy about that, and I suspect race director may not be happy about it as well. And David Coulthard was being too greedy in trying to hold on to that second place, and he may well pay a penalty. In reality, what he should do is pull over and let Barrichello take that second place. Otherwise, he may have to come in for a drive-through penalty.
Let's take another look. He got alongside ahead. Coulthard very late on the brakes. Thought he could make it, but as he turned in was too much speed. He went straight across the chicane. Barrichello did as well. Now, that's an interesting point.
Yes, now I just wonder, was Barrichello put in the position? He was sort of forced by Coulthard's actions to do that. Nevertheless, both drivers show that one may be called Evans-Stevens. Nobody benefited, gained or lost. So Rubens' finger coming out of the cockpit, he was not happy.
But he did cut across the curb as well. He might have a better case if he'd actually gone through the chicane himself. And there you can see the reaction in the Ferrari pit.
The lovely Stefania smiles as the Ferrari team think, well, there's the opposite view on the McLaren pit wall. Not so lovely or smiling or happy. They're wondering what will happen, but because Barrichello followed Coulthard, I think that it will be left as it stands on the road. No gain to Coulthard, no loss to Barrichello.
So they cross the line to complete yet another lap. With just 9 laps to go here in Canada. Michael Schumacher has backed off a little bit now. He can afford to relax slightly. He's got this one in the bag as long as his 100% reliability record he's enjoyed this year is maintained just over the last few laps. Coulthard, though, is under severe pressure for second position here. The winner in Monaco last time out, determined to hold on to second position ahead of the second Ferrari. Kimi Raikkonen and the other McLaren Mercedes running fourth. And this is certainly the best day that McLaren have had, really, apart from that win in Monaco, with Raikkonen also looking for a 4th place finish here.
And with this great battle taking place for second place, we've sort of rather forgotten what's going on for 5th place with Jarno Trulli and Ralf Schumacher, 6th and 7th, that is. Ralf Schumacher still 0.3 of a second behind, and Ralf Schumacher disappointing this afternoon.
I tell you what, John, we've had a great Grand Prix today. There have been battles at various points in the field. We're watching the one for second going on here as David Coulthard's girlfriend watching. Doesn't look as nervous as she might do, really, as with Barrichello right behind him. Fisichella is currently running in another strong 5th place in the Jordan Honda. Then it's Trulli in 6th, as you said. Ralf is still right behind him in that battle for 6th place. And then if we go back again, we've got Panis in 8th place, and he's got Felipe Massa breathing down his neck for that 8th position. Again, we've got 16 cars, or in fact 15 cars, still running in this race. Not as many retirements as we normally expect in Canada.
For Michael Schumacher now, it's really a drive to the flag. This is lap 63, 8 laps remaining. And really all he has to do is just drive the car. He's got the rhythm, he's just in a perfect position, and don't expect too many surprises there. You can see he's already dropping the RPM, the engine capable of running up to 18,000. He's now running to about 17.5 maximum. In fact, in some situations probably running even lower. Short shifting just to take away that little maximum energy the engine can produce, but why bother? But this battle going on. This is Ralf Schumacher, the view from Jarno Trulli's Renault.
Yes, Jarno Trulli, who's only scored points once this year. That was last time in Monaco. He's got a chance of scoring 1 point if he stays in 6th position. But Ralf Schumacher looks very determined to get it off him. It's not easy to overtake in a similarly powered, similarly matched car. The Renault power versus BMW power here. And for the moment, Ralf has not been able to find a way past.
And slightly further in 5th place, Giancarlo Fisichella up for a trio of 5th place finishes in the last 3 Grand Prix. He's only 5.6 seconds behind Kimi Raikkonen, who dropped way off the pace some 5-8 laps ago, now running again comparable speed. But Kimi Raikkonen may have a problem. He's maybe just trying to bandage the car to get it home. And Giancarlo Fisichella running in the one middle at 1:17.5s. Kimi Raikkonen 1:18.3.
Oh, there's a bit of a breather for Coulthard, because just going past Jenson Button, I think that was. Button's still running, he's down in 10th position, and that just has given a little bit more of a breathing space for Coulthard over Rubens Barrichello. And then we've got that 28-second gap back to Kimi Raikkonen running in 4th place. So Coulthard can, well, just draw breath, try and put the power on, and Ralf Schumacher was right up the inside of Jarno Trulli there.
He was almost at the point of coming into contact. This is into turns 3 and 4. This is where we saw McNish spin there, the marks on the track. Flat out, almost flat out through 5. And let's look again at this battle that's been raging throughout for the final point in this race. Ralf locks it up down into turn 10. Gets so close to the rear of the Renault, but Jarno Trulli's got good traction out of that hairpin bend. Hasn't got the horsepower that the BMW has, but you get what he has down efficiently, and that just gives him the advantage off the corner, and Ralf hasn't got enough to get the job done into turn 14.
So let's now watch this battle through that hairpin again. And as he gets the car straight, the traction control cuts out and the V10 engine at full song. Over 200 miles an hour here. And then onto the brakes for the final chicane. Down to 2nd gear and over the curbs, and again Trulli just controlling it.
And with the benefit of a slipstream from the Renault, Ralf Schumacher was doing about 210 on this lap. We were riding with him at 210 miles an hour.
So his BMW engine certainly working okay at the moment, unlike Montoya's, which blew up just a few laps ago. And position 5 is for Giancarlo Fisichella. That's the Italian's pit board, driving the Jordan Honda. And as you say, looking for a 3rd, 5th place finish in a row after a tough start to the season. His teammate Takuma Sato is still running, and Eddie Jordan will at least draw a breath of relief about that, because Sato's had such a torrid time in recent races. He's still going, he's 11th, he's ahead of Mark Webber by 11 seconds, so that shouldn't be a threat for the remaining laps.
Well, we see the advantage of the horsepower of the BMW Williams. It comes at the end of the straights. Conversely, the Renault is so good off these slow corners. He gets the initial jump, and the straights here not quite long enough to enable Ralf Schumacher to get past this battle.
So you can use the boost button.
Well, the boost button isn't like in a turbocharged engine. It simply means that you're allowed to run the engine to a slightly higher RPM than you would ordinarily do in a race in these closing laps. 5 laps to go out of a total of 70.
Well, it's not the driver going for the high-energy banana snack, it's Ross Brawn, the tactician, who's going for it. But he's looking at a Ferrari 1-3 finish here at the moment, unless Rubens Barrichello, who's closed up again to Coulthard, can do something about it in the remaining 5 laps. Watching them out of the hairpin. Again, Barrichello, a quick last lap, a 1:16.3, about 2/10 faster than Coulthard. May want to use the traffic ahead of them. There's Olivier Panis in the BAR, running in 8th place at the moment.
But Panis has been very good with traffic all day. He'll pull over, let this battle for 2nd and 3rd go through. And Rubens Barrichello hoped maybe that, well, Panis still he's not. I'm surprised. I thought he might have pulled over. He will do now on the exit of turn 2. He'll pull over to the right, and 2nd and 3rd will go through. Coulthard may not be as happy about that, because he thinks that Barrichello may gain marginal advantage.
We saw Coulthard withstand tremendous pressure throughout the Monaco Grand Prix. It's going to take Barrichello a fairly brave move. We saw him have a go at the end of the main straight a little while ago, and both of them went over the curbs at the chicane. He might have another go there.
But remember, Barrichello may also be wary. He made an error under braking in Monaco 2 weeks ago. He was trying to get past Kimi Raikkonen, Coulthard's teammate there, and he just outbraked himself and ran into the back of the McLaren. And of course that was very much earlier in the race, but it cost Barrichello dear.
Yes, and Barrichello's only had 3 finishes in the 7 Grand Prix held so far this year, so a finish would be very, very useful to him indeed. He's not going to do anything too silly, I think, at this late stage in the race.
Giancarlo Fisichella 3.7 seconds behind Kimi Raikkonen in the 4th place. So that trio of 5th place finishes for Jordan could be 2 5ths and potentially a 4th, but believe me, Kimi. Oh, and there we see Jenson Button.
Yeah.
And his Renault is over. 3 laps to go. So that will help Takuma Sato into 10.
Understood, gents, understood. Put it to P0, please. P0, please.
And Jenson Button just being told how to leave the car. And, well, it's pushed well out of the way. It doesn't cause any problem to other cars on track. Yellow waving at the moment, but that will soon be withdrawn.
Giancarlo Fisichella now has got Kimi Raikkonen well and truly in his sights. They've got effectively 3 laps, but it will be very shortly 2 as we watch race leader come around. This is round the back of the circuit, the furthest point from the start-finish line into turn 10. So Giancarlo Fisichella some 3.8 seconds behind the McLaren in 4th place. Tall order, but what's going on?
Ralph is on the grass, and that's in a battle with Trulli for 6th place. Ralf Schumacher must have made a dive up the inside. He's lost it, but he's managed to get on track again.
The worst thing is Ralf Schumacher went onto the grass, and of course that means that his tyres will be dirty from the dust, the grass. Let's watch and see. Well, he doesn't try anything, but he just...
turn 1.
It is turn 1, but he gets there into turn 2 onto the grass, and the grass will choke up those hot Michelin tyres, and that's a driving error, an unforced error from Ralf Schumacher, no doubt brought about through frustration, through not being able to do anything with the Renault of Trulli in this last part of the Grand Prix.
Well, it's that all-important 1 championship point that he's chasing, but he's now dropped off a little bit, and surely there's not much time left for him to close the gap again. Coulthard has still got the advantage in 2nd place over Rubens Barrichello. You're looking back at that other Ferrari as Michael Schumacher heading his way round, counting the laps off now to yet another victory. Coulthard still has to defend from Barrichello.
But what a superb job from David Coulthard. Started in 8th in the grid, didn't feature very much in the early part of this race, but because of a long first and only pit stop, managed to find track position. Great job by the team to get him back out. And David Coulthard showing once again extreme maturity as team leader of McLaren Mercedes-Benz.
But Michael Schumacher, what can you say about this man, the 4 times world champion? He will be starting his final lap in just a few meters, makes it through turns 14 and 15, and he comes across the line with just 1 more lap to go. Schumacher heading for win number 59 in the World Championship. He's broken all the win records and he's moving towards the magic 60 mark. And of course, he's looking at the 150th World Championship victory for Ferrari here today.
And most importantly, Ferrari put behind him that problem that Schumacher had this morning, an engine failure unexpectedly. Well, Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello running 1st and 3rd, could have possibly been 1st and 2nd. One might say should have been 1st and 2nd, except for McLaren and David Coulthard. And Michael Schumacher, no doubt, delighted with the work carried out by the Ferrari team. Once again, underlining the fact that the combination of Ferrari and their personnel and Michael Schumacher is virtually unbeatable.
Yes, picking back up after Monaco, which didn't work out for them. Take another look here, the battle between Coulthard and Barrichello. We're really optimistic on his late braking.
Yes, we've seen a lot of drivers make an error down there under braking. The brake pedal gets a lot of punishment here. Your brakes are hot. You might just find you've got a long pedal and you know, you can't come off and pump it up because you're braking so late.
It's going to be win number 6 this season in just 8 Grand Prix. What a stunning performance from Michael Schumacher. He comes through to win in Canada, and he wins by quite a margin, just backing off in the last few laps. But dominant performance, and Coulthard comes through in 2nd, Barrichello comes through in 3rd, and then we're waiting for the 2nd McLaren of Kimi Raikkonen to come through, but there's still a little battle with Fisichella, so we'll watch that at the end. But Michael Schumacher, the star, once again in Montreal.
But Michael Schumacher backed off massively on that last lap. He finished only 1.1 seconds ahead of David Coulthard in 2nd place, and Barrichello was a further 6 seconds behind David Coulthard. So well, Michael decided I'll just cruise home in this last lap. I mean, cruising home with a 1.1 seconds. Great drive from Kimi Raikkonen, also comes home in 4th place. 3 points for McLaren, and another superb drive from Giancarlo Fisichella in Jordan. A trio of 5th places for the Silverstone-based team.
Yes, he backed off a little bit on that last lap himself, but Fisichella a safe 5th position, and Jarno Trulli coming through to take that final hard-earned point. Well done to the Italian, who held off Ralf Schumacher throughout the last laps. Well, there's a way to finish the race. Smoke pouring out of the back of Ralf Schumacher's car. It's like, what was it, Barcelona, I think, that the engine blew on the last lap for him. And Ralf not getting any points. Bitterly disappointing day after their fuel rig problems. He drove hard throughout the afternoon, tried to get past Trulli. Last year he beat his brother here. Michael Schumacher has revenge this time by taking his 5th Canadian Grand Prix win.
Yes, the real challenge from Williams BMW only came from Montoya. Ralf never seemed to feature, and there we just see there's the beginning of the smoke trail, and he pulls off on the exit of 2. And for BMWs today, this is not a day to celebrate or remember. They've had 2 engine failures, very public engine failures, but Ralf, well, he doesn't feel disappointed with what he's done. He's responding to the cheers from the many tens of thousands of race fans here in Canada. Walks back, but he'll be very disappointed, as will the entire Williams BMW team.
Great effort here from David Coulthard, the winner of Monaco 2 weeks ago. Came here knowing it would be tough, and he started down in 8th place on the grid, lest we forget, because he's moved up to 2nd place. Funnily enough, it matched his former worst qualifying performance, and that's his best ever finish here in Canada.
And a drive of real character. I must say, David Coulthard has impressed, I think, everybody here today. Starting in 8th place, finishing on the podium in 2nd, splitting the 2 Ferraris. McLaren have had a difficult year. They've been struggling for horsepower. They have to maximise all their other advantages, and today they did a brilliant job.
And with that, John, look how much he's closed up to Ralf Schumacher and Montoya in the points. The battle for 2nd, very close in the Drivers' Championship, as Michael Schumacher continues to disappear up front. 70 points he now has out of the 8 Grand Prix that have been held this year. A maximum score would be 80, and he scored 70. So absolutely astonishing performance from the Ferrari team this year, dominating with this 2002 Ferrari. Barrichello drove hard. Of course, he got a bit held up in the middle part of the race, and perhaps that's really what cost him that 2nd place.
Well, he was making some signs. I wasn't sure as to David Coulthard or not, but clearly Rubens doesn't want to make too much. He's not being... I didn't see you there, he says. So, well, you know, they're still having a dispute about that issue where one passed the other, and then Coulthard shot down the inside. It caused both of them to go across the runoff area. We'll hear more about it in the press conference, and both drivers maybe put on their more political heads. But it'll be interesting to see the view of Coulthard about that incident down in turn 14 and 15. But Michael Schumacher, absolutely delighted. Great race, great strategy from Ferrari, and Michael Schumacher once again the master of Grand Prix racing.
Yes, he's proved it once again, hasn't he, as he chases that record 5th World Championship title to match the record of Juan Manuel Fangio. It's getting closer all the time, isn't it? And we thought on this occasion that he might have a big battle with Montoya. Indeed he did. I mean, Montoya was very much a part of this Grand Prix, but sadly he did look as though he wasn't going to be able to match Schumacher, having made that 2nd stop. And in the end, Michael Schumacher taking yet another victory to add to his tally. It's celebration time for Michael Schumacher, for David Coulthard, and for Rubens Barrichello. They make their way through to be weighed, as is standard at the end of a Grand Prix. Check their weights, check that the cars therefore are not running below their minimum weights. A few of the fans trying to get onto the track now, but Michael Schumacher can celebrate his 59th Grand Prix victory here in Canada. Having won 4 in the past, he now adds a 5th Canadian Grand Prix to his record. David Coulthard in 2nd place, having won in Monaco ahead of the 2nd Ferrari of Rubens Barrichello. Kimi Räikkönen at last getting his 2nd finish of the season, all the way from Melbourne to Montreal before he scores points again. But Giancarlo Fisichella in a fine 5th ahead of Jarno Trulli, who deserved that 1 point for 6th place after fighting off Ralf Schumacher in those remaining laps. On down the list, everyone else, I'm afraid, not scoring points. We got some 14 finishers. Of course, Jenson Button did actually retire before the end, but still classified for completing enough laps. 15 official finishers, although 14 were running at the end of the race.
And to me, it was a race, really a cat and mouse race. No one prepared to disclose what they were doing. We thought that Barrichello was on that 2-stop strategy. He sprinted ahead on the first lap, but never really seemed to consolidate it and never get sufficiently far ahead to dominate in the early part. And then Michael Schumacher and Pablo Montoya, their battle going on. Tragedy for Montoya when an engine failure, and from that point forward it was really a victory for Michael Schumacher. All he had to do was ensure that he completed all of the 70 racing laps, and 10 points and victory. Once again, going to the 4 times, and one might say now almost certain 5 times Grand Prix world champion.
Well, a lot of Ferrari fans will be very happy indeed, having seen Michael Schumacher win once again here in Canada. And you can see the team. There's Jean Todt, team principal, keeping an eye on the podium celebrations that are about to take place. Of course, they've still got a hearing at the FIA later this month about what happened in Austria, particularly the podium celebrations. But this one's a clear-cut victory, no doubt about it, for Michael Schumacher. The customary leap of joy for Schumacher, and it's time for the national anthems to play. So the German national anthem followed by the Italian for the winning constructor Ferrari here in Canada as Michael Schumacher celebrates once again. He's got used to taking the top step here in Canada, and for the 5th time he lifts that trophy aloft, and the smile ever present. Never gets bored of winning, does Michael Schumacher, and once again he just showed his class here today. From the start of the race running with a heavy car, he kept it in position, stayed with Montoya and Barrichello, who both had a lighter car in those early stages, and then when it mattered he put in some very, very fast laps indeed to stamp his authority on the race.
And I think also we should make mention of the fact that it isn't just a Ferrari victory, that Bridgestone, who provide the tyres to Ferrari, but also to Jordan in 5th place. You know, those tyres were maybe considered to be not quite as dominant as we've seen in other races. Michelin producing superb tyres for Williams and for McLaren. So really a team victory in a battle between the manufacturers, between the drivers, and between those tyre companies.
Rubens Barrichello looks suitably happy about his 3rd position, a hard-fought 3rd place throughout. Chased Coulthard, couldn't quite make it, and it's time for the champagne shower now. Get out of the way. And Michael Schumacher, as skilled in this as he is in driving the racing car. David Coulthard just keeping a little clear of the rest of the attack out there at the moment.
And race engineer of Michael Schumacher, Luca Baldessari, getting a really good champagne bath. And Michael delighted that Ferrari had nominated his race engineer to come up and represent Ferrari to receive the manufacturer's trophy. The Jeroboams, in fact, Mum champagne are passed on to the various team members. Guys, remember to catch this. Oops, I think somebody's some of the fans trying to grab hold of it here. And they will now quickly go into the press room for post-race interviews. And one last chance for the public to see these three victors here standing, enjoying this moment. Great moment for Michael Schumacher. David earning a very fine second place after his win in Monaco. And Rubens wondering, well, what would have happened if?
That's right, maybe it could have been a Ferrari 1-2, not to be on this occasion. But nonetheless, some great points in the Constructors' Championship, and of course in that Constructors' Championship, their main threat, Williams, who didn't score at all today. So again, Ferrari pulling ahead in both championships, the drivers in particularly for Michael Schumacher and the Constructors' Series. Williams will certainly have to lick their wounds after this one and think carefully, particularly about reliability issues as they try and push the envelope, as they try and get on terms with Ferrari. Their pace is improving, but perhaps the reliability is suffering as a result. Drivers now making their way through to the press conference. Then in a few moments we'll hear the comments from Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello. The fans still soaking up the sun, still soaking up the atmosphere here on the Ile Notre Dame.
And of course, great delight for everybody that there were no unforeseen incidents, accidents, and most of all the weather stayed fine and fair throughout. The only time, of course, was when the safety car came out to see the removal of Jacques Villeneuve's BAR Honda to safety, and that no doubt did play a role and certainly sent everybody in the pit wall into extremes of panic to work out very quickly, and Williams certainly were on the ball on that one. I suspect in part, though, it was that problem with the leaf litter which was going into the air intakes, and I think that Williams were very wise to bring Montoya in, and we've seen just how much was being pulled out of those air intakes on either side of the driver.
Well, lots of people getting their photos taken in the pit lane there. The Drivers' Championship, as you can see, with Michael Schumacher some 43 points ahead now of his nearest opposition.
Well, Scotland may not have made its way through to the Football World Cup in Japan and Korea, but Scottish fans have got something to cheer about. A victory in Monaco, a second place here for David Coulthard, and there you see the fans. We saw them a minute ago with their faces in the flag of St Andrews.
Union Jacks as well, so David Coulthard giving people something to cheer about. Unfortunately, Jenson Button didn't have quite such a good run.
And that young lady probably thinks Jenson Button is mega.
Well, he was unlucky this time. Look at the Constructors' Championship here. McLaren Mercedes, of course, scoring well in the last few races, firmly establishing themselves in third place, well ahead of Renault and Sauber now, and closing up a little bit more to Williams, some 21 points. Let's go to the press conference now and hear from the top three drivers.
Congratulations, gentlemen, an action-packed Canadian Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher, victory. David Coulthard, second for McLaren, and Rubens Barrichello, third for Ferrari. Michael, a very exciting race. You appeared to start with a heavy fuel load, according to your pace in the early laps, but then from the outside, we started to wonder if indeed you were on a two-stopper because you were lapping so fast. You never backed off in that race.
No, we couldn't, because the strategy was obviously, after we knew Montoya was on two-stop, very tight. So I had to push until he made his second pit stop to know that he is really behind, and only then I sort of consolidated my pace to sort of to keep the gap consistent.
Now, it's a very strong race. Obviously, once Montoya had finally retired from the race, you were home free with a big lead and you could back off. But how good were your tyres today? But you've also talked this weekend about having a very strong engine for here at Montreal.
Yeah, I mean, we had a very strong package all in all. On the other side, it was obvious that we had some blister on our rear left tyre in particular, which for sure cost us a bit of performance. But then, obviously, it was still good enough to win the race, and in normal circumstance, probably be first and second. But that's the way it goes, and we're pretty happy with the result so far, and obviously with the package we have had here.
Michael, congratulations, thank you. David, starting 8th, I don't presume you would have imagined being sitting here in second place. But you started with a heavy fuel load, so it seemed, but still you managed to get past two cars leading into turn 2 on the first lap. Talk us through those first sort of 400 metres.
Well, obviously we've seen recently that our launch system's been working very well, so it was one of the discussions before the race as to whether starting with a lighter fuel load would help me pass people into the first corner, but the engineers were confident that that would have not much of an effect. So once again, like Monaco, the prediction was correct, and I gained those 2 places quite easily.
Now, your pit crew seemed to do a very good job just to get you back out ahead of Kimi Räikkönen, but then you spent the final 15 or so laps fighting with Rubens Barrichello. Talk us through the moment where you both came up behind, I believe it was Takuma Sato, to lap him and then headed down to that final chicane.
Yeah, well, obviously I thought Sato was going to let me through at the hairpin, but he didn't, so I was very slow coming out of there. And then obviously in the run down to the last chicane, I know it was very marginal with Rubens, and you know, he's expressed that opinion, and I've apologised for squeezing him, but I had to pull out of the slipstream from Sato, and it was always going to be marginal for the last chicane, and I took a gamble, didn't manage to make it, went through, and was fully prepared to let Rubens pass had he made the chicane, but as he hadn't, then neither of us gained advantage, and that was it. It stayed that way until the checker flag.
David, thank you. Rubens, what's your view of the same incident with Sato and David?
Well, there's no point in arguing right now. I think it's you know, right at that point I was able to brake and make the corner, but when you see somebody going fast on the outside, you just don't want to let it happen. So you just naturally come off the brake. So basically, I couldn't make the corner either. But I mean, that's no point in going back there. If you put a wall there, I'm sure we both would have made a corner.
Rubens, also on top of that, it seemed that in one of your pit stops you had an extra bit of time in the pits having gravel cleared from your side pods. Do you think that's the difference between you sitting in 3rd place or having finished 2nd?
What my view on the thing is not much on the pit stop. Maybe on the pit stop I lost a little bit of time, but I don't know why they brought the safety car in, because they could really roll the car backwards. The BAR there, and that was it. I mean, I really don't understand why they. I mean, they completely done my race dead. I mean, I was on a 2-stop, so I had only 6-7 laps after the safety car came out. So it was, and I see no reason why the safety car was brought in.
Rubens, thank you. Michael, today was Ferrari's 150th win, your 6th win of the year. Next race, one of 2 on your home ground this season at the Nürburgring. What are your hopes?
Our expectations are obviously very high with the package we have. I would like to express a big compliment to our testing team, because all year they sort of stay in the shadow and they work very hard, and we never had the opportunity to really thank them in the proper way. And I'm really happy we have such guys behind us. Rubens obviously was, while I was having some vacation, using the opportunity with them, and they simply do a fantastic job with both our testing driver, Badoué and Borti, and all the test engineers. So a big compliment to them, and we obviously look forward to having a good test next week and come well prepared to Nürburgring.
Thank you, Michael. Now, Michael and Rubens, if you'd like to talk in your own language.
So a good comment from Michael Schumacher, just spreading the praise a little bit amongst the Ferrari team members after another awesome performance from the world champion. Barrichello taking that 3rd place, so Ferrari scoring extremely well in the points. Just looking at the fastest laps on the screen, in fact Montoya ended up with the fastest lap of the race, just by a fraction from Michael Schumacher. Montoya setting that on lap number 50. He got pole, he got fastest lap, but he didn't finish the race and he got no points. Indeed, it was a disappointment. Montoya, I mean, capable of pushing Michael all the way, and as Michael pointed out, they were struggling a little bit with a blister on their left rear tyres. Nevertheless, I think that as things unfolded, it was going to be very difficult for Juan Montoya to get on terms with Michael Schumacher once he was in the lead. But more interesting is the rapport, or lack of it, between Rubens and David Coulthard. It was a difficult moment for both drivers, but David did pull out at the same time as Rubens was coming up to pass. So one of those situations, both drivers will have a different perspective of it. The issue, of course, would have been watched by race director and his deputy, and they didn't see any gain or loss to Rubens in that situation, and that's why they didn't penalise Coulthard. Both of them, of course, went across the safety runoff area, but Rubens not happy about it. David said, look, I'm sorry, I apologise, but that's a little bit of a grudge that Rubens may harbour for a day or two, but hopefully by the time they get to the European Grand Prix at Nürburgring, he'll have forgotten about it. Well, let's take a look back over the highlights now of the Canadian Grand Prix here in Montreal. weather conditions were just about ideal for the start of the Canadian Grand Prix. And Juan Pablo Montoya always knew that to get off in front of Michael Schumacher would be crucial. He managed that. It was a great start from pole, and it was Barrichello in what turned out to be the lighter Ferrari, slipping into second, and you could see Michael didn't even try to stop him. Raikkonen made a great start, moved up to 4th place around that first lap, but Barrichello was soon on the charge, fighting his way past Juan Pablo Montoya, taking the chase to Williams and showing that the lighter Ferrari was going to be very quick in the opening laps. De La Rosa had this contact with Alan McNish on the end of that opening lap, managed to change the tyres, would rejoin but go out again later. And Felipe Massa making a little mistake that allowed Jacques Villeneuve to gain a place. Unfortunately for Jacques, it didn't last long.
But this is the event in the race that really changed the character of the race. The retirement of Villeneuve, the safety car came out, and as we have heard from Rubens Barrichello, he doesn't understand why. The team will explain later. Nonetheless, there is the safety car. Barrichello feeling that it was an unfair, it was an unnecessary safety car deployment.
Great reaction from the Williams team, though, to get Montoya in at that precise moment as soon as they knew the safety car was coming out. That helped him, and this helped him even more. Raikkonen made a mistake at the last chicane. Montoya was right there to take advantage of it, and if he hadn't got past then, he certainly wouldn't have been in the battle later on in the race as he was, because Raikkonen then did not make another mistake, and Ralf Schumacher had to follow him lap after lap after lap and could not find a way through.
And one thing was clear, Kimi Raikkonen proved today, if it ever needed proving, he is a fighter. He did not concede 1 inch of track, and this is one of the other issues again, this leaf litter all around the circuit. We saw it with the Williams BMW there, with Barrichello having to wait until the mechanics, the engineers were happy that they'd cleared those air intakes away.
De La Rosa was one of the retirements. We didn't see as many cars out of this race as sometimes. Michael Schumacher made a late stop, and it brought him back out in second, with Montoya still having to make his second pit stop. Kimi Raikkonen was still charging in front of Ralf Schumacher, but it was more disappointment, I'm afraid, for the Jaguars, as Eddie Irvine struggled in the pits and would soon retire. And Ralf Schumacher had to make 2 pit stops. The fuel didn't go in the car properly. Irvine's retirement came a moment or two later, and Ralf Schumacher was then left with the prospect of trying to get just 1 point, in which he failed in the battle with Trulli.
Well, David Coulthard, look again, the oscillation on those Michelin tyres as they bounce them across the curves. David Coulthard, one of those days when he got his head down, but Alan McNish, the other Scotsman in the race, had his head down too much. He had a spin, and of course then the car into retirement. He couldn't select a gear, and we have to apologise for the language that Alan McNish used in that brief moment when he was on the radio to his team.
Then the drama of BMW engine failure for Montoya, putting him out of what would have been at least second position. Barrichello and Coulthard battled for what would be second place themselves. That was the moment that Barrichello wasn't too pleased about. He waved his finger, but nothing was done because they had both gone across the chicane, and that was how it was going to have to stay. Meanwhile, the battle continued for 6th, and that last point, Trulli versus Ralf Schumacher, raging to the end as Trulli's teammate Jenson Button sadly retired with almost within sight of the checkered flag. Ralph's mistake down at the first corner meant that he wasn't able to take 6th, but Michael Schumacher came through to take Ferrari win number 150 and show his class once again, as brother Ralph, last year's winner, expired in a cloud of smoke. And Coulthard and Barrichello discussed that incident in the battle for second. Michael Schumacher, the winner in Canada. So that was a look back at some of the highlights of today's race. Michael Schumacher enjoying himself once again with the podium celebrations and win number 59 in his glittering career. Coulthard a well-deserved second place, and Barrichello a hard-fought third. The fans are beginning to make their way back into the city from the Ile Notre Dame, back into Montreal, some of them no doubt flying home, but lots will still be partying in the city this evening.
But for the teams, they'll be already not rebuilding, they'll be disassembling their cars. They will be packed up as some of the true Scots that have come here today. Well, I wonder, is he a true Scot, or is he just one that wants to be thought of being one of those? But the engineers, mechanics will strip the cars down. They'll be put back onto their pallets that they're transported out on. All the equipment will be sent back to Europe, to either Italy, Switzerland, or back to the UK, and of course for Toyota back to Germany. There'll be a test next week. The guys will be back in their cars, And then in 2 weeks' time, it'll be the European Grand Prix at Michael Schumacher's home track, possibly closer to his home than the home of the German Grand Prix, which is in southern Germany at Hockenheim. The Nürburgring, what, some 50 miles from his birthplace and his home for many years in Keupen in northern Germany.
That's right, John. Yes, there'll be a huge contingent of Schumacher fans there. We just saw some here in Canada, but once they get the camping going in Nürburgring, the German fans will be camped out in the woodlands, and they'll be thoroughly enjoying themselves, looking for another Michael Schumacher victory. Could he take win number 60 there? And remember, still looking for the record of most wins in a season. He matched the record last year with 9 victories during 2001. The way he's going this year, he could well get into double figures for the number of victories he earns this season.
Well, I don't think anything is going to stop Michael Schumacher until that World Championship is safely in his hands. And the way the season has gone for him, that's going to come, I think, sooner rather than later. But it's after that Grand Prix World Championship is secured, then we might see Ferrari being a lot more relaxed about the team orders. And if Rubens Barrichello does find himself in a position to take a victory in a Grand Prix, then Ferrari will say, well, Rubens, you've earned it, you take it. But until that time happens, the team must maximise as much as possible for their team leader, Michael Schumacher. But really, it's almost impossible to conceive of anybody else now mounting a challenge, although we're only halfway through the season. In fact, there are a further 9 Grand Prix, a further 90 points available to Ralf Schumacher, Juan Pablo Montoya. They are the nearest challengers. David Coulthard coming up directly behind them now on 26 points. So you have to say Coulthard potentially, mathematically, is in the frame as well.
Well, if we look at the people who have not scored points on this occasion but still managed to finish the race, Ralf Schumacher, of course, finished in 7th position. Olivier Panis actually got a finish at last. The Frenchman who has not managed to get to the end of a race all season long, finally getting home in 8th place, out of the points, I'm afraid, but at least he got there. Felipe Massa also a finisher. So was Takuma Sato, who ended up with the fastest speed trap time at 337.5 kilometers per hour.
That's pretty quick for a Formula 1 car on a circuit like this. Michael Schumacher only a fraction of a kilometre down, but I mean about 210 to 211 miles per hour maximum speed, and lots of cars running in that high 208, 209 area. Of course, this is a high-speed circuit. It's, I think, the 4th quickest in the Grand Prix calendar, but many drivers trying to find the balance between the lap speed, which you need, but top speed as well, which is vital to be able to execute a good overtaking maneuver. You don't want to be putting yourself in the situation we saw with David Coulthard and Rubens Barrichello when they were lapping Takuma Sato. That is getting into danger zone.
Well, here you are talking about the way that they're disassembling the cars, John. That's exactly what's going on now. And the McLaren pit, everything has to come apart, of course. They build these pit garages, basically. All the lighting gantries, they're all owned by McLaren. They all have to be packed away in crates safely to be brought back to Europe and then, of course, set up. But at least at Nürburgring, they'll have the advantage of having their normal transporters with them instead of having to pack everything into crates and send them out on the Formula 1 jumbo jets that transport equipment all over the world.
Just hearing an interview with Ross Brawn on another of our channels, and he was saying that really they did not know what was going on. It was only when the safety car, in fact, was deployed to remove Jacques Villeneuve's BAR that they then realised that Montoya was on a 2-stop strategy. So they saw this race as being a pretty tough race to call. They were not in a position to judge the pace in relative terms to the fuel on board.
Well, it's good to know that we're not the only ones who don't always know exactly how a race is going to pan out.
Well, I think if we did know, well, that'd be a bit unusual, though I have to say, on one occasion, many years ago, and it involved Ross Brawn. He was working at Benetton Renault at that stage, and I was in the commentary booth, and one of our French colleagues was being given information by Renault engineers as to when the Benetton team were going to pit stop. I conveyed that to our viewers, and of course, at that time, our signal was available in the pit lane, and members of the Benetton team went to Ross Brawn and said that John Watson has told the world what our pit stop strategy is. Ross saw me at the next Grand Prix and came up to me and said, "Who told you? Was it Gerhard Berger? Was it Jean Alesi?" I said, "No, it wasn't." And eventually I explained to him who it's never ever again did that information come from a fellow journalist, particularly one of French nationality who would be associated with the Renault engine at that time in Benetton.
They do want to keep it very, very much under their hats. The strategy going into a race, and you know, as Ross said just now, they didn't know what Williams were up to until that safety car period. Well, Williams will be pleased that at least they kept Ferrari guessing until that moment. It did work out quite well for Montoya, and at one stage, Montoya taking the fastest lap in the race. He was competitive with Michael Schumacher, but I think Michael had him covered. Those few laps that we saw just before Montoya blew up, all I'm wondering is, Montoya put in a couple of quick laps, then wasn't quite so quick. You do wonder if that engine was just beginning to tighten at that stage, and whether he would have been able to just close the gap up to Michael.
I suspect that the problem that Juan Montoya retired from was something that he was getting a message, and I'm sure the BMW engineers in the pits would also be in contact with Juan Pablo Montoya to tell him to keep an eye on temperature, and occasionally then you can either be told, well, just keep going, if it goes, if it blows up, it blows up. There's no point in backing off, and it's a bit like oxygen debt. If you're a runner, the only way you can recover is to slow off, slow down, in fact sometimes come to a stop. Well, I think in the case of Grand Prix racing, when they anticipate a problem, they say, well, let the thing blow up. If it's going to blow up, let's go out with glory rather than trying to, let's say, bandage the situation.
A lot of fans getting the chance to have some pictures on this famous track, and it's a great atmosphere, isn't it? Good spirit, everybody looking pleased, and it's been a tremendous Grand Prix. It was really unpredictable throughout, certainly in the early stages, and throughout the Grand Prix, right until the checkered flag, we had some battles that we really couldn't tell how they would be resolved, particularly that battle for second between Coulthard and Barrichello, and the other between Trulli and Ralf Schumacher. Pressure on those guys throughout the 70 laps of this Grand Prix, finally resolved with Coulthard getting second and Trulli taking sixth.
And Flavio Briatore of Renault just chatting to somebody not entirely happy with 1 point, but he's still not disappointed. 1 point is better than none. And just ahead of them were Jordan, who had a very difficult and disappointing start to the season, now scoring in the last 3 races 3 fifth places, 6 points in the championship, and that brings them into clear water in 6th place behind the Sauber team, who are on 8 points.
Jenson Button 6th in the championship. Must be one of the more disappointed non-finishers here today. He had a good run going in the early stages of this season, but poor Jenson's had a series of non-finishes now. Well, with Monaco, he had the accident with Olivier Panis. He was 7th at the A1 ring, but failed to finish in Barcelona after running in a possible podium scoring position. So it's been a bit bad news for Jenson Button in this latter part of the season so far.
But good news for Button is that the Renault team and Patrick Faure, the president, has suggested that they really are anxious to keep Jenson Button. They're very impressed with what he's done this year, and that's nice for a driver to know at this stage of a season. We're coming up to what we call the silly season. There are many rumours going around the pit lane over the weekend, some of them being denied, some of them just get quizzical looks in people's faces, but one that seems fairly clear to all of us is that Jenson Button is required to stay with Renault. He wants to stay there, and that can't get much better than that.
Yeah, he's certainly in favour at the team again, which is great news after the struggles of last year with a car that wasn't competitive, and Jenson really struggled to adapt his style towards it. Look at the scenes down there in the pit lane, the colourful sight of fans from all over the world taking the last opportunity to have a look at the cars before they get packed away from this 8th round of the World Championship. Well, round 9 coming up in a couple of weeks' time at the Nürburgring, and of course we will bring you absolutely full and uninterrupted coverage of all of the practice sessions, the warm-up, the race itself, and the Super Cup will be back there at the Nürburgring as well, and you'll be able to enjoy our coverage of that. The Master Channel continues for a few more minutes, so do join that for a while. But from Ben Edwards and John Watson, our coverage from Montreal is over for this year. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.
Believe it. Full of praise there. Obviously wanted to get that one in. Had been preparing it for a while about the testing team at Ferrari. How important are they then for the success of that team?
That everyone's important in the team. You know, you can't. The Formula One teams have grown enormously, and and so much of the work is done behind the scenes. And Michael is, when he says something like that, he's really talking as a representative of Ferrari, and I think you'll find that as whatever happens, whether he carries on racing, certainly in the future he will become some sort of figurehead for Ferrari, and he's talking like a chairman, isn't he? But
He is, isn't he?
He is. He's the chairman. He's the boss. I mean, all this business about team orders and him not being in control. He will be one day. There's obviously been some words, hasn't there, between David and Rubens. I mean, David should have been very pleased to be in second, but he looked very glum. He shouldn't allow himself to be put off by whatever Rubens has said, you know. But maybe he feels a little bit guilty that he hung on to his place by taking to the escape road.
But maybe the people who organise the Canadian Grand Prix will bear in mind that if there is a wall there, as Rubens says, then everybody will make the corner, because most people seem to ignore it.
We'd have about 6 dead drivers if they'd have a wall there this week.
Well, they could do something. I mean, it's either a chicane or it isn't. If they're able to ignore it, then it's a mockery, surely.
Yeah, the point he's making is that it's too easy to get away with just cutting out the corner. Yeah, Rubens is quite. Sometimes he's got a little bit, you know, something. He has to have something to complain about, and he really. He may have had justification to be upset that he didn't get a chance to overtake David because David really stayed on the track and ahead of him because he took a shortcut. So he might have some justification there.
Yeah, but he was also bitching about that move coming out from behind the Jordan's slipstream, which I thought was really stupid, you know? So I just don't see that.
No, I agree.
Yeah. Well, let's join Patrick Head now, who joins us live from the track. Patrick, a lot of us here were hoping that Juan Pablo might have got a result today. I'm sure you were hoping a little more strongly.
Yes, I think he was in very good shape, and it was unfortunate, obviously, that he had the engine problem when he did, but I think Michael had maybe a bit of shortage of fuel, was trying to save fuel, and certainly some of the tyres coming off the Ferrari were very blistered on the rears, so I think it could have been quite an interesting battle in the last few laps.
Patrick, I've got a question for you. It's Damon here again. I raised a bit.
Nothing difficult, please, Damon.
Nothing too difficult for you, I expect. No, but I was a bit surprised when I saw Juan Pablo come in after the safety car. Was that called by the team, or was that kind of a reflex reaction from him, having come from IndyCar, to come in the moment he sees the safety car?
No, he's not that twitchy, but he was on a two-stop strategy, and Ralph on a one, and it was within the window that we had pre-planned that would be appropriate for pulling him in when if a safety car came out. It was a very good call by Sam Michael.
Yeah, it was going to be.
Could have worked to his advantage.
Yeah, it was going to be a brilliant. I mean, it was going to be a great finish to the race. We're very disappointed. Do you know what happened with was it an engine failure?
From what one can understand, it looks as if it was something around the engine. But
yeah. Okay, I understand you can't say anything just yet until you know for sure. But anyway, thanks for talking to us, Patrick.
It's a pleasure, Damon.
Well, if you can smile in the face of adversity, he must be pig sick.
Yeah, but you know they're up there and they're showing their form. They're showing that they're capable of taking a fight to Ferrari. It would be, you know, it could have been a lot worse. We could have been sitting watching two Ferraris walk all over everyone.
It's like poking them in the eyes with needles now to get them to admit there's been an engine failure, isn't there?
Yeah, it is. I know. I understand what you're saying. That even for someone like Patrick, you know, to be tongue-tied, it shows you that they have to be so careful what they say. They say one wrong thing and suddenly they've upset BMW or they've upset someone else, or you know, and there's a load of pressure for the next 2 weeks.
Well, we're guaranteed an Eddie Jordan interview at some stage before we go off air, because Eddie's boy done it again. Terrific run.
A good result. I mean, I think that having done it in the dry is good for them. I was kind of thinking that if it rained, then maybe they could have got a podium position because they're on the Bridgestone tyres and they're better than the Michelins normally in the wet conditions. But no, good all-round result for Jordan, one they should be quite pleased with and proud of. I'm a bit surprised that Sato didn't come through, given the pace of the Jordan, but at least he didn't completely smash it to pieces this weekend.
Well, definitely one of the most incident-packed races of the season so far. Sit back now and enjoy the highlights. Michael Schumacher, another win for Ferrari, for whom reliability doesn't seem to be a problem. And part of the reason for that is Ross Brawn, who's now with Peter.
Congratulations on a fantastic win.
Yeah, it's still a bit tense. It was a tough race. It was a very tough race because, of course, for 20, 15 laps, we didn't know what was going on until the safety car came out, and when we saw Juan Pablo go into pits, we understood then. So it was a tough race. We couldn't judge Ralph's pace because he was stuck behind Raikkonen, so we really didn't know where we were. And then when he came in and we saw him put in about 25 laps of fuel, then we understood what was happening. But we had a difficult call with Rubens at that stage, and I left him out, and maybe it didn't help. It didn't help, but Michael's race went perfectly after that. When we understood what Juan Pablo was doing, Michael controlled his pace, and he had a very, very good race.
I was going to ask you about that. How much did you think about bringing Rubens in during the safety car, bearing in mind he was obviously on light fuel?
Well, it got very close, and one of the things that happened, which is a bit unusual, is looking at where we would have come out into the field. It was quite a long way back. But I think everyone slowed up. They see the safety car sign, and normally they keep a reasonable pace until they get behind the safety car, but for some reason they all slowed up, which allowed Juan Pablo to jump the traffic. That's something we need to think about for the future.
Now, how marginal was Michael on fuel and tyres in the latter stages of the race?
I don't honestly know until I have a look. I mean, all our measurements were saying okay, but it is a very hard track on brakes, and he had a very hard first half of the race. He wasn't able to rest for a moment, so he was using the brakes and tyres extremely hard. That's why we were having a look at the brakes and the brake. We have measurements, but there's nothing like having a look with your eyes to see what's going on. So we really need to check where we were. We were okay, but right on the limit, and which is what a racing car is.
How would you rate this as one of Michael's drives, one of his wins?
Certainly very good. Certainly very good. I mean, he kept in touch at the beginning. You had Rubens and Juan Pablo on 2 stops, and you had Michael on 1. So he was very impressive, really, to keep in touch with them, and that was important. And then when it all got started again, he kept up a very good pace considering the amount of fuel he had on.
Do you think that the fuel would have been okay without the safety car? I mean, it was, from your point of view, was it a risk to go 1 stop? How marginal was that?
No, and I mean, what's happened here, the pit lane's a little bit shorter, the tyres are getting softer. The tyres wouldn't really do a long 1 stop, so an even 1 or a 2 stop were the 2 choices, and we split it because we thought Rubens could have a go. He's very good at overtaking, and that's what he did. It just got spoiled by the safety car. If the safety car hadn't come out, I'm sure Rubens would have finished second today.
Appeared to be a few blisters there right at the end.
Yeah, they were on the limit. But as I say, that's what a racing car is. You feel them, but they're not catastrophic.
Well done, Ross. Great win.
Thanks.
Well, before the race, Giancarlo Fisichella told us that he'd done a fantastic lap in qualifying, and he had a fantastic race by Jordan standards. Here he is now with Nick.
Giancarlo Fisichella, is it something about you? Do you always finish 5th now?
Well, I hope to improve that position for the future. It's not easy, but I'm quite happy because the car is reliable and it's competitive, so we need just more power and a bit better car.
You really look like you're enjoying yourself again now after a disappointing start to the season.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good period for us. I'm looking forward for the future.
Good luck, thanks.
3 consecutive 5th places for that young man. Now, Jarno Trulli grabbed the other point, 6th place for Renault after what wasn't looking to be a great weekend. Here's Nick again.
Jarno Trulli, point, happy with that?
Well, not so bad. I mean, we knew that we were going to struggle a little bit because of the engine power. But anyway, we take out the best from this race. 1 point, not too bad. And, I hope to continue this way.
A lot of fighting, a lot of struggling with various drivers. Quite an exciting race for you?
Yeah, exciting. Even I was struggling a little bit with the brakes. That's why I wasn't so quick, and sometimes I was pushing, sometimes I was slowing down. Just because I wasn't sure about the brakes. And I remember last year I retired 4 laps ago because of brakes problem.
Jarno, well done. Thank you.
So as we leave the sunshine of Montreal, we look ahead to the Nürburgring. Any reason to suggest there might be a change in order in 2 weeks' time?
If Michelin can keep up this same pace of development they've had recently, then we can expect more challenges to Ferrari at the front. But, Bridgestone aren't going to be somebody who stays still, so they're in turn going to be putting more R&D together, realising that Michelin are getting close to them. So, I don't know. I personally see it as all down to what Michelin can do. But one thing I think we can be sure of is that the gap's going to close.
Very briefly, Damon, you were nodding vigorously there.
No, disagreeing. I think that the Nürburgring is going to suit Ferrari and the Bridgestones more than there has done the last 2 Grand Prix.
OK, you heard it here first. Chaps, thanks very much. So congratulations to Michael Schumacher, winner of the 2002 Canadian Grand Prix. He and the rest of the Grand Prix circus will be back in Europe for the next race, which, as you've heard, is the European Grand Prix held at the Nürburgring in Germany. Sky Sports 1 has a preview for that at 7 o'clock on Thursday, the 20th of June. And here on Channel 434, we have practice sessions 1 and 2 on Friday, starting at 9:30. On Saturday, it's practice 3 and 4, and because of the World Cup, that starts at 6:45 in the morning, followed by qualifying at 10:45. Sunday has warm-up at 8, and then the race build-up starts at midday. My thanks to Damon and to Perry, to John Watson and Ben Edwards for the Super Channel commentary, and to Peter Windsor for his insights and interviews. So I hope you can join us again in a fortnight's time for the European Grand Prix. Just think, by then England might be in the World Cup semi-finals, and Perry might have bought me a pint.
So well behaved, yet they were so close. 2 metres.
What did you make of Montoya diving in when the safety car was out? Did that work out for Williams, do you think?
I think it looked a little bit strange for everybody at the beginning of the race, but I actually feel that it could have worked out by the end of it. You know, he came in for an early stop, came in out of sequence. He was going to make up track position while he got back on the road when the others started to come back in for their stops. But, you know, the end of it was that splash and dash, and he was going to put the hammer down and really make the gap. And his lap times were coming down significantly, and I think it would have been a great race by the end.
And just listening to Louise down there, unusually for Juan Pablo Montoya, he's usually quite calm about these things, but very, very upset after the race, after his engine blew again.
That's understandable, Jim, isn't it? I mean, he had pole position at Monte Carlo, failure. He had pole position here again, another failure. Some frustration coming out in him, but Juan Pablo Montoya will be back with a smile on his face, and he will be back winning Grand Prix again in the future.
He obviously feels there, perhaps, Tony, he's doing his job, and perhaps other people in the team aren't.
Well, it's more than that. Just that. At the start of the season, they reckoned that the car was too conservative, and there's been a lot of rumours and a lot of denials by the team that they desperately need a B-spec car to really go out and challenge the Ferrari. That means to say, new chassis, new aerodynamics. And it's something that they've got small revisions here, but they need much more than that. You need a big step to go and try and challenge those Ferraris.
I'd like a word from you about David Coulthard, winner in Monte Carlo, and another good drive here.
I thought outstanding, solid drive. I know Martin said Montoya was his man of the day, but I think DC was my man of the day. 8th on the grid, finishes 2nd, and also 2 McLarens finishing. Kimi Raikkonen finishing now in the top 6 cars. It's a great result.
You can't underestimate the morale booster that Monte Carlo was for them. And then Martin Whitmarsh, the managing director, has promised a big step for Silverstone. He said it's something they've been working on for quite a long time. And to come with a high downforce car that went so well in the confines of Monte Carlo, to come here and they were so far off the pace, tremendous result.
Okay, thanks both.
Congratulations. Ross, 150th Ferrari Grand Prix, so?
Oh yes, oh wonderful. Well, I didn't know that, but that's a nice way to do it.
So when did you know about the Williams strategy that Juan Pablo must come in for a second time?
Well, when he jumped in with the safety car, then obviously we realized then he was on a 2-stop strategy, which was a relief to us from the point of view of Michael, because the pace of Juan Pablo at the beginning was a bit worrying. But once we saw that, but we got a little bit spoiled with the safety car, but it wasn't too bad in the end.
So what was the basic idea with the 2 of your drivers?
Well, Rubens was on 2 and Michael on 1, and Rubens did what he had to. He jumped the start, did a very good start.
Only McLaren.
Yes. Super overtaking on Juan Pablo at the beginning. But we had a bit of difficulty in the middle of the race.
This was a Ferrari.
Yes. When it was important that we pushed hard in the middle of the race, Rubens was struggling a little bit with the car, so we weren't able to make the gaps that we hoped.
And the championship is now right in reach.
Well, it's never done till it's done. You know that.
Thank you very much.
Barrichello, David Coulthard Seite an Seite und Barrichello schafft es nicht. Unauffällig vom Ergebnis her, gar nicht so unauffällig von seiner Leistung her, denn er ist direkt hinter David Coulthard geblieben. Sein Abstand auf Coulthard war relativ gering.
So we have tickets for the Formula One? Ah, where's the bus?
Okay.
Frentzen hat da schön Platz gemacht für die Verfolgergruppe.
Ja,
Raikkonen und Ralf Schumacher.
David, when did you believe you can score a podium today?
Well, only after, just before my pit stops, really, to be honest. Before that, I thought maybe I'd get 5th or 6th place, and I would have been happy with that, but obviously I'm delighted to get 6 points here today, and big compliment to the team again on the reliability.
There was some good racing, fighting with Rubens.
Yeah, that was a good little battle. He gained the slipstream on me because I was held up by Sato, but I was able to hold my position by both of us missing the chicane.
So after Monaco, another podium here, so they're light at the end of the tunnel finally?
We're realistic as to where our performance is at the moment, and we just have to keep working, and as a team there's some key areas that we need to improve, and we just continue with that.
So you're already thinking about next year, or?
Yeah, we try and do the best we can at every Grand Prix, but in terms of championships you have to think towards next year. But you know, a team like McLaren has the resources to work all the time on the car, as well as looking towards next year, and obviously Mercedes as well. They're doing all the development they can to put us in good shape for next season.
Thank you. Roby, an entertaining race, but where do you lose second position?
Well, it's difficult to say, but I think I lost on the safety car, basically. Maybe even first, because it was going quite well today.
So there was some good fighting against other pilots?
Yeah, it was good fighting. I mean, the only problem was that on the safety car I only had a few laps to complete after my pit stop, so it was very unfortunate.
Why was the pit stop so long?
I don't know, they had a problem on cleaning the radiator.
The fight with DC was very interesting from our point of view, from yours as well?
Yeah, it was quite nice. I mean, we have different views on the situation, but we want to change. We don't want to change. That there won't be a change to the results, so there's no point in arguing.
Thank you.
Jacques, that's just about the worst possible result for you at your home Grand Prix. What went wrong?
Well, the engine sounded bad for a few laps, and a few cars got by me, and then it gave up there at the end.
Jacques, it's Damon here. I mean, we'd have loved to know whether you, now you're out of the race, can you reveal what strategy you'd chosen to run on? You seem to be going backwards a little bit.
Yeah, we weren't very competitive. We were going to go long, but still, we weren't as competitive as we should be.
No. Well, we presumed you qualified better than you actually could, the car deserved to be. So we're keeping our fingers crossed for you later in the season. Good luck.
Thank you, it's needed.
Mika Salo come in and seem deliberately just to take rear tyres. They come in a lap late and take fronts. What was the problem?
Yeah, we have a problem somewhere in the car. We don't know what it is, so we have to wait and see.
So he thought it might be the tyres, that's why you were changing them round?
No, we were. It was a regular stop we did when he came in the first time.
Thank you.
Tom, very bad luck for Enrique. What was the problem? You were studying his wheel quite closely.
Yeah, I thought it a vibration, it a suspension problem. But there's nothing wrong with the car, but he had a problem in Brazil, so he was nervous.
You saw Heinz Harald come in, seemed to have a problem with your fuel rig as well.
The same rig that aborted in Monaco has done the same here.
Thanks, Tom.
Mika Salo, like a very difficult race for you. What took you out of it in the end?
I don't know yet. I think we had a puncture, and I did 2 laps with the punctured tire. I think it did some damage for the suspension or brakes or something, and it's not drivable anymore.
Was that around the time when you came in twice, once to change the fronts and once to change the rears?
Yeah, we changed the rears. That was the original plan. I had unfortunately, at the same time, I had a front puncture, so I had to come straight back in and change the fronts as well.
Bad luck, thank you. Juan Pablo Montoya. Ron Dennis, we spoke to you just before the start. You said you can't always win, but you can get a good result, and I'd say this is a good result.
It's gratifying. I think, again, the right strategy. The strategy gave us the places. Not delighted because we had a refueling rig problem and had to slow Kimi down. It didn't take all the fuel, so you know, took him off the podium. We're quite sure could have beaten Rubens with Kimi as well, but it's one of those things.
And you predicted to be a safety car as well.
Yeah, I was surprised there wasn't 2, but you know, that's motivating. You look at your data, you understand, you know, what it takes to optimise your performance, and that's what we did.
Well done, Ron, thanks. Kimi Räikkönen, well done, 4th place, but here you had a problem at the stop.
I don't know really what happened. Team just asked me to start to slow down and save fuel, and then they asked me to stop on the side of the circuit. I guess there was some kind of problem.
But happy with the result nonetheless, considering?
No, not really.
Thanks. Jensen, long race, no reward, and stopping at the end. What happened?
I was going all right at the beginning, and after the safety car, Salo got past, and I don't know, I got past him, he had a problem, so I lost a lot of ground. Then he came back out in the circuit, lost a lot of ground behind him then, and then I had a problem with the diff. I don't know what or the gearbox, I don't know. First and second gear was slipping a lot, I don't know what it was.
Made a good start again though, both Renaults, good launch control.
Yeah, the system's working well still, even on old tyres, so it's no, it's very positive, and I just wish we could have got a better result. But
better luck in the Nürburgring, thanks.
Vice-Premier Ministre du Québec.
Patrick Head, eventful race and very, very disappointing for the team, I would say.
Yes, I think the team did a very good job with the strategy and calling Juan in when they did when the safety car came out, and it put Juan in quite a good position, and I think he was in a very good position to challenge Michael later in the race. From what we saw of Michael's times, I think he was quite short on fuel towards the end, and maybe in problem with rear tyres, so it would have been a very interesting race had Juan stayed in.
Disappointing for BMW, I suppose, to have an engine failure on their 20th anniversary of their first win.
Well, you know, I don't think engines take too much notice of anniversaries, but I don't think they'll be thinking of that.
On a more serious point, did Ralph have a fuel rig problem?
Yes, he did, but I don't know exactly what it was, but whatever it was, the fuel rigs didn't deliver. Yeah.
Now, you probably know there's a problem with McLaren, also a problem with Arrows. Is this something you're going to really have to take out with the FIA? These rigs, year and a half, still giving big problems.
Yes, they're quite complex, but I really couldn't say too much. I mean, maybe, you know, maybe it was a finger problem on our side, but I do believe that they're totally unnecessarily complicated for pushing some fuel into the car, but that's what we've got, and basically until we've looked at what the problem is and see what caused it, I can't really make too much comment.
Patrick, thank you for talking to us.
Okay.
Eddie Jordan, very smiley and very happy. Another point for Fizzy.
Yeah, Fisichella, he did a truly amazing job. He looked competent all the way through. His qualifying was sensational. He drove a super race, very calm, never made any mistakes. His lap times were so strong all the way through the race. When we asked him to push, he pushed. When we asked him to just take it handy a little bit for the time being with the tyres and such thing, he's driving fantastically well.
And Taku Sato finally putting the horrifying events of the last couple of races behind him.
I told you he would. Sooner or later it had to happen. Law of averages. Yeah, top 10 finish for him. 2 cars finish. It's a good day for Jordan, and we've got to move on, of course, and try and get better.
Enjoy the celebrations. Thank you.
Congratulations for fourth point again. But Jacques lost quite a few places during the start. There was a problem.
Show me! 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 Yeah, show me! Siamo più forti! Siamo più forti! Siamo forti! If it ain't Scottish, it's crap.
Olivier Parnis, relief at last. You finished a race this year.
Well, yeah, this week the first very positive point is this one. I'm finished the race until Suzuka last year, you know. It's quite long term, but I'm really enjoying about this. But after that, we need to continue to work really hard to continue to improve the car. And I think so if when the 2 cars finish the race and a little bit more quicker, I think so we mark some point.
Obviously, Jacques having a problem there with his engine. I've seen David talking to the Honda representatives. How can you move forward now to ensure that the reliability is there?
Well, it's, you know, it's not easy, but we wait the evolution of the engine, the Step 2 engine, maybe for Silverstone, I think. And we work a lot next test, and I think so if we put this engine in Silverstone, maybe we have good reliability and more performance.
Now, unfortunately, still no points, but maybe next time in Nürburgring?
Well, we need to looking for and we need to pushing.
Olivier, thank you, well done.
It's a disappointing event here, and problems with three drive-through stop-goes of speeding. Was it finger trouble for the drivers?
No, it was a system failure. When both drivers came in for the pit stop, pit lane speed was okay at the pit stop, and then when they left, something happened in the computer, and when they got out, they were both too fast. And then Nick had another drive-through, and by that we didn't realize what happened on the computer, and so he just, like with the pit lane speed limit, he came through, but was overshooting again, and this was resulting in a 10-second penalty.
Obviously that ruined the chance of a good result, but were you happy how the cars were going apart from that?
Yes and no. Yes and no. We had quite a bit of problem with the tires. The tire degradation was huge on our car. We would have loved to stay as long as Fisichella did, but it was absolutely no chance for us. So performance was, I would say, mixed.
Yeah, thank you.